table is actually really interesting.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, and when we actually look at it like that as well, whatever you were saying, yeah, that's what you were saying, wasn't it? About pulling with Sunfire.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, right before we had to go on our union-mandated break from the, this Microsoft takeover, man. Like this cubicle feels smaller than it did before, for sure.
I'd be honest with you, I genuinely don't think anyone noticed that we went anywhere, so I think we're good.
Yeah, like, people like using the podcast to fall asleep too. They're already asleep. It didn't matter.
Yeah. But
they probably slept better once the noise stopped.
We had some technical issues, and by technical issues I mean I had a full-blown power cut, which was not ideal during a podcast, obviously. But
not the type of power shifting we were talking about.
No, exactly. But we're back, and we'll carry on and pretend that it didn't happen.
We had time to watch back the VOD and figure out where it cut out, though. But yeah, it was when I was talking about pulling with Sunfire. Like Sunfire, no, for bears. If you're taking Sunfire as a bear, and Go brought up PvP, he's like, what about PvP? And that's like, we got cut off before we could talk about PvP. I could see PvP applications to use Sunfire as bear. If you're being kited, you can't do anything while you're being kited. Anything that you would be able to do, you would have to shift out of form to be able to do it. So like Sunfire would give you something to do while you're being kited. But it's so expensive, like 20 rage, that's crazy. You'd have to have a full, like if you're being kited, you can Sunfire like one time, maybe, and then you're out of rage. Like what are you gonna do? Well, it just, I don't know. It seems like they added the ability for bear to use it as like a rage dump almost.
Or maybe if you can use potions in form in Season of Discovery, you can pop a rage pot to Sunfire.
That would be interesting. If they made it so you could use consumables while in form, yeah, like rage potion would actually be usable for druid tanks. That'd be interesting. That's,
Yeah.
Add that to the list of stuff that we want to find out when it goes live.
I know it was like the old school thing where you could use a potion in combat and then it would go on cooldown. It's not like it was in Wrath, but this was the alpha. And I liked going back to that. I liked being able to be in combat for more than 2 minutes and then be able to use another potion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a quality of life change again, isn't it? It's not like game breaking, but I think using consumables in form, like it's something that should be added.
But also, like in vanilla, like there's not really like TBC was really when the the potions that had a combat benefit to them. That was really when they first started. Like there was no, like potion of haste or whatever, like haste potions in TBC. Nothing like that existed in vanilla. It was really just mana potions. That's kind of it, really. And like, I guess like for rogues, like Thistle Tea, for warriors, rage potions and stuff like that. Like that, that type of stuff. I guess that's more along the lines of like a combat usage of a potion. But like for most of it, it was just mana pots and health pots. That's kind of it. So like it made sense for in vanilla to not have, a limit on how many you could use in combat because like you needed them.
Yeah.
Whereas and even in TBC, you could still use them in combat and whatever, but with Wrath, with stuff like, potion of speed, potion of like the wild magic potions and armor potions and stuff like that, like, vanilla tanks being able to just always have the bonus armor from armor potions is like, they got to balance around that. And in Wrath, you use them more as like a DPS cooldown or a mitigation cooldown or something like that. It's more akin to that in Wrath. So like going back to the vanilla style where you could just use them whenever they're off cooldown, regardless of whether or not you're in combat, like it will be interesting to see whether or not they make some of that stuff usable in form.
It's a good point. It's actually one that I've not thought about at all. Yeah, what I was really struggling to concentrate, right? So partly because I'm quite a few beers deep already now. And secondly, because I thought it would be hilarious, right? For the next time us three are doing a podcast together, we all just invest in another green screen. So we all just get one more just green cloth or green curtain or whatever. And we literally just wear it like we're getting a haircut, So, and then we'll just be 3 floating heads just in the middle of the screen when we're talking. I don't know why I started thinking about that while you was talking about potions, but yeah.
Could even like have a background and make us look like a Hydra.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Especially if the actual like necks of the Hydra move, and our heads move with it. I'm gonna have to make that happen just for a laugh, even if it's just for like the intro or something. But again, sorry everyone for like, what can you do? It's just the worst time to get a power cut. I sit and stream for hours and play for hours, and then it's typical that something happens when it's podcast time. So it sucks. But anyway, we'll crack on. So we have, if you haven't seen part 1, go and watch part 1. We have spoke about all the talents for all the different specs, both tank and DPS feral, Boomy, Resto. Obviously, we have touched on glove runes. So we've touched on some runes, not just gloves, but we've touched on the odd rune. Should we now like really go into the nitty gritty of all the runes, and we'll just go through each of them one at a time? I've not got the notes open anymore. Go. Is there anything outside of runes that we want to focus on as well?
I mean, the runes were kind of tied to what runes to level with. The best spec to level with, if we want to touch on that at all. But I mean, who knows when we're getting each rune? I know you were thinking, I think it was gloves we're going to have at like level 2 to start that quest chain, but how long is that quest chain going to take?
Well, we kind of know, but that's one of the things that I didn't want to spoil. So we do kind of know when some of these are available.
See, I don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean,
you might, but I don't know.
I do, and I can have that open and at least reference the levels if we want, as we go along. Rather than me telling you how you get the runes, so it is a completely spoiler-free podcast. I can at least say, oh well, it looks like that's going to be level 10. Is that going to be useful?
Yeah, that could be useful. Yeah.
Okay. I don't feel like that's spoiling a lot, is it?
I mean, I was just hoping, as a Boomy, that Rune or Fury of Stormrage is going to be available before 10, by level 10, should I say? If it's past level 10, it's gonna be great, but it would help us level a lot more if we got it sooner rather than later. Like the other runes, they'd be cool, but that rune in particular is just so good at low level.
Yeah, I like the. So this is again not a spoiler, but. The mage runes that you can get, specifically like Living Flame and Fingers of Frost, they've done like the most absurd anagrams for them, so it will say Fingers of Frost, but it's in an anagram. But it's like so obvious, it's like Finger of Strophol, it's like you can almost just read it for what it is. I mean, that might just be how my brain deciphers anagrams, but it literally, some of them are a bit questionable. But okay, let's start with the glove runes and use. So lacerate we've spoke about a bit anyway, but we'll go through all of them. So lacerate, thoughts?
So the way that it reads anyway, lacerate the enemy target, making them bleed for an amount over 15 seconds plus 20% weapon damage per existing application of lacerate on the target. The thing that I have noticed about lacerate in the past is like that kind of like bonus mainly applies while you're stacking it. Like once it's already stacked, I don't know whether or not it'll be the extra threat when it's already fully stacked when you're just refreshing it. Because there was like some really weird interactions and a lot of theory crafting went behind it during TBC for lacerate. About like once it's stacked to 5, do you keep spamming it or do you only refresh it? So like we're going to basically have to go through all that again for Season of Discovery, like to figure out how exactly this version of lacerate works with regard to threat generation. Is it something that like obviously we're going to want to keep it rolling for the dot ticks because those will also cause threat as well. but it's one of those things where we don't know if it'll be worth it to continue to use lacerate once it's fully stacked or only to refresh it. And if it's only to refresh it, then it's still worth it to have it for sure, because it's just passive threat going on, while you're doing other stuff. But then your instant ability becomes swipe.
Mm-hmm.
And really just as like a rage dump. You're trying to make sure that you can maul as often as you can. And if you're rage capped, then you swipe to spend down some rage, but never when you're at the point where you won't have enough for maul. So that's something that we're gonna have to test once we get in there and it can actually see how it performs and whatever. But it specifically says causes a high amount of threat, stacks up to 5 times. So it's the lacerate that we're all familiar with from TBC and Wrath. It's just that, that one little thing that I mentioned that we won't know exactly what it's going to look like until we get in there and get to actually try it out.
Getting the weapon damage, though, is massive. Like, that's huge. That once you've got it at 5, every subsequent lacerate is going to do 100% weapon damage.
Right. And that's what I mean is when the TBC version at first, from what I remember, it could have changed over time. I could be the testing that people did could have turned out differently or whatever than the last time I looked. Mm-hmm. But it seemed to me at the time that you only got that bonus while you were still stacking it. Once it was at 5, it was like regular damage. It didn't get it was a weird enough interaction where it's worth looking into to see exactly how it's going to work in Season Discovery. The way it reads, it definitely seems like once it's at 5, when you use it again, it's 100% bonus weapon damage or 100% weapon damage. But because of the way that it worked in TBC, it's definitely something to keep in mind to test once we get in there and can actually do stuff with it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair.
15 rage per. I know leveling. Using abilities low level, 15 rage was a lot of rage.
And 15's chill, man. 15's good. That's good.
15's all right. Once with a talented maul is only 10. But the true cost of maul is more than just 10. It's kind of the same as Heroic Strike for Warriors because it replaces an auto. So it's not just, it doesn't only cost 10 rage, it costs 10 rage plus whatever rage you would have gained from a white hit. That's the true cost of maul. The same as Heroic Strike. Whereas lacerate's always 15 no matter what. So you could just not maul. If you're rage starved, you can just not maul and only lacerate and you're fine. You're still getting rage from your white hits.
Just before we carry on, is anyone having problems here in table? Because I'm looking at the voice meter and he's nearly as loud as me. There's maybe 2 decibel difference. And Go, do you want to say something? I mean, no one complained about it in the first part.
I'm just trying to think of what you just told me about lacerate, and then looking back at ferocity. Is there so wait? Did we say ferocity's not good for bear? And we would go feral aggression, or is it still worth it?
No, ferocity is the one you would take because it's the majority of your damage and threat is going to come from maul. So you definitely want it to be cheaper so you can get more mauls out.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put some things out on the table tonight that people can feel free to come back to after launch and go, you dick, you was well wrong. I would say lacerate's going to be the ability that you can... Which this is going to be strange, actually, when you really think about it, because you don't get... we know everyone's going to get a rune at level 2. Everyone. Every class is going to have a very simple quest, which is go and get me this, and that introduces you to runes. Now, getting lacerate first don't make sense, because you're not going to have bear form. Getting mangle first don't make sense. You're not going to have cat form. Getting sunfire first, all right, that makes a little bit of sense. Wild growth first makes 0 sense, because that's not going to help you level, is it? So, I would say almost without question, sunfire is going to be the level 2 rune. Now, this is something that I'm not going to say is...
Oh, you're saying each slot, you're not going to... I was thinking, this slot, the glove slot, all 4 of these would be available at a specific level. Not that, for the glove slot, you can get one at level 2, one at level 10, one at 15, one at 20. You're saying
That's
you
how
think
it is.
It's going to be like that?
Okay, so
I don't
again,
like that then.
without giving like too many spoilers, if we look at Mangle, for example, it looks so when I say not spoilers, I'm not going to tell you how you obtain Mangle because I know exactly how you obtain Mangle, or according to data mining.
You have to kill the Great Bear Spirit in Moonglade.
Yeah. But it like that's a level that's looking like Mangle's going to be a level 10 ability. Okay, so even though we're looking at it like feral DPS, we want it for cat. It's actually going to be something that you'll probably get very shortly after unlocking bear form.
Right, it's free to swap runes anyway, so it's not like you have to fucking pay or whatever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can see the vast majority of well, when I say vast majority, I can see a good amount of the runes, and what level you can actually get them at, but I can't see Sunfire anywhere, which would tell me, well, actually, it's because it's not acquired by a specific item or idol or anything like that, so probably getting it at level 2.
Yeah, from the quest, like a quest reward, instead of like an item you use to grant you the ability to use the rune or whatever.
Yeah, which then, if you now think about it, that kind of makes sense, don't it? Because you're going to be able to use it at level 2 as while you're leveling just in human form. When you unlock bear, you're going to be able to use it in bear form. It's like it's actually one that you could potentially never unlock another rune on your gloves, and you would be all right getting to level 25 with Sunfire. I'm not saying it's what you'd want to do, but you get what I mean. It's not none of these other sort of abilities that you're going to need to be able to use the rune are gated by level.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it definitely makes sense that Sunfire would be the first one.
Which sucks dick.
Yeah, like I would want Furious Stormrage. Like,
that's not gloves.
That one.
That's not gloves.
I know.
Chill,
With my level
chill
2,
the
I'm
F out.
saying I would want that.
I mean, it could be. It could be. As I say, I've not.
Sunfire, I'd be fine waiting until like 20 for Sunfire.
But there's like things like with the Windfury, for example, like that's going to be level 25. Savage Roar, you're not going to have until at least 20. Some of these have actually got levels on them now. Again, I just really I want to practice what I preach. I've said on this podcast, I've said on videos, I want to remain as spoiler free as possible for at least a week. Bare minimum. Let everyone enjoy it for a week. I don't give a shit what all the other YouTubers are doing. They can literally put videos out telling you where everything comes from. That's cool. Go and watch them. Whereas I actually want to preserve a little bit of the launch. So, by all means, if any of you don't know what I'm talking about and you want to know some of this stuff, DM me on Discord and I'll tell you. And I will tell you. Yeah, I mean, it's not difficult to find. You just need to know how to use the WoW database.
I'm trying.
It's pretty simple.
Some of the stuff is pretty easy to figure out just like logically through looking at what's data mined, or just knowing stuff about the game. Like you're saying, like Savage Roar is probably level 20. Well, yeah, that makes sense. It's a finishing move. It wouldn't make sense to have access to that before we have access to cat form, the form that we use for finishing moves. Like
exactly. The only thing I would have liked to have seen. And I still think we're going to see a little bit of it. But again, I could be wrong. Is some of this stuff unlocked earlier, actually? So like Cat and Bear, I know they've got the quest, that you need to do to get, to get bear form. Which I get that's part of the vanilla experience and all that shit. But I'd like to see warriors start with dual wield. I'd like to see enhancement shamans start with dual wield. I'd have liked to have seen druids, by level 10, you've got bear and cat, so you do the bear quest. Let's say you do the bear quest, but you unlock cat form at the same time, rather than waiting so people can level how they want to level. Because you've got all these. That. Well, the thing is, they're putting all these cool abilities in and then still gating them behind a level, so like warriors not being able to get dual wield until 20, rogues not getting dual wield until 10, yet they've got things like mutilate. It's like, it's really counterproductive to add some of these cool runes and then go, but, like rogues, I don't want to go too far off on a tangent, but if we just look at rogue just as an example, because I've been doing a lot of rogue analysis, if that's what you want to call it, because it's going to be my main PvP character. but there's not really that many like glove runes. Like what you're going to get at level 2. You're not going to get main gauche forced on you because it's for tanking. Mutilate.
Gauche.
Yeah, you're not going to get mutilate because it attacks with both weapons. I mean, saber slash, yeah, potentially, but you know,
Nowhere slash.
Helinoa slash, exactly. Shadow Strike is very PvP. That would be a really weird one to get at level 2. And Shiv requires an offhand. I mean, so it almost basically, like using that logic, Saber Slash will be what you get from level 2, because it's going to be the only thing that you would level with, and it's going to basically replace your Sinister Strike. It would make far more sense that actually you get dual wield at level 1 at the point you create your character, and then you've got a few more options there. You know, by the time you get to 10, you might be using Shiv, you might be using Mutilate. You know, I don't know. I feel like there's a few things like that are going to be such major inconsistencies that it's going to ruin actually the lower level experience. You know, the sub 20 experience, where they could make that much better by adding some of these, which they may well have. That's the thing. Like, everyone thinks they know what they're talking about. You know, in terms of like, even on the Warrior video, it got a lot of positive feedback. People enjoyed it, but a popular comment was, "Warriors can't dual wield till 20, bro." Well, can they? How the fuck do you know that? Do you know what I mean?
On era servers, yeah.
Yeah, on era servers, on a game that we're not even talking about. Like,
yeah, but SOD is not era.
No, exactly. So I'm hoping Blizzard have put a bit of thought in, because as an enhancement shaman, when they've put all their eggs in one basket of being dual wield enhancement, they've already said they don't care about, you know, two-handed enhancement. How can you wait for a shaman to come online until level 20? They're going to get to enjoy dual wield enhancement for that 5 levels of leveling before they're then just smack banging, you know, farming pre-raid bis and getting into, you know, BFD. Like, it's not a good way to play.
Like, kind of counterpoint, I guess. Like, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but like, you know, devil's advocate, like, they were talking at BlizzCon a lot about like trying to preserve the spirit of classic and things like that, like, and making SOD feel like vanilla still, just with extra stuff. So, like, from a philosophical standpoint, from the devs, are they trying to preserve things like arbitrary level gating for certain abilities and stuff like that, because that's part of what people expect from vanilla character power progression? Or, you know, like, is that important to them? You know what I mean? Like, if that is still important to them, if they view that as like being vanilla and wanting it to feel like vanilla, then it would make sense for them to keep things gated behind levels in that way. But if that's not important to them, then I could totally see them giving, you know, rogues dual wielding from the start, or warriors dual wielding early, cat form early, stuff like that. I can see that happening if that level gating thing is not important to them in their view of what vanilla is.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair point. And I do think there's going to be a lot of like where they feel they're preserving something that doesn't need to be preserved, you know, and they're making fucking like amazing changes. Like, don't get me wrong, but like fucking things we never expected to ever see. And then it's like, oh, but you still can't get cat form till 20, or you still can't dual wield till 20. You know, they can't sort of. I don't know. I know what I'm trying to say, but I just can't say it because you know, how much can they try to preserve with the way that Season of Discovery looks like it's going to play? You know, it's like, preserve the zones, preserve the dungeons, preserve, you know, all that side of things, the social environment and everything. But when you're adding runes that changes completely how classes play, you know, there's some quality of life shit that needs to go alongside that. You know, which again, I just think some of it will get missed. But what Nike just said, so glove slot first is the theory crafting problem. So we already know 100% that Paladin's first... Well, when I say we know 100%, it could have changed. But the Paladin's first rune is a glove rune. And on the basis the glove rune for the majority of classes is a builder, you know, like a combo builder, or, you know, it's something that you can use from level 2, the glove kind of makes sense. But let's go with that. And let's say it's not. Let's say it is only Paladin, like, or Paladin and some other classes, you know, that their glove rune might be the first one they get. So we've already ruled out Lacerate, we've ruled out Mangle, we've ruled out Wild Growth, because it would be fucking ludicrous to give you a party heal at level 2, wouldn't it? Like, I would riot, literally.
Yeah.
Chest rune. So I would rule out Living Seed for the same reasons. You got to rule out Survival of the Fittest because you can't tank. You've got to rule out Wild Strike because you've got no cat form, and I already know that that's level 25. Fury of the Stormrage would be far too fucking overpowered to put in as a level 2 rune.
Nah. Give it to us, dude. We need it.
As a boomy, be serious, like, go. As a boomy, yes, you'd fucking love to get it at level 2. But do you think you should get that at level 2?
Absolutely.
Oh,
yes.
what? Get me a better fucking boomkin on here.
Oh, come on. It's so annoying. Everybody, you're watching hunters run around leveling, no problem, no downtime. And we're stuck there casting 3 wraths, being and having to melee mobs from level 4 to level 10.
That's the vanilla experience, bro.
Oh my, but this is not vanilla.
Yeah, but we've got to preserve it, remember? We've got to preserve the vanilla experience, brother.
Fuck that. I don't want to have to buy water. I've got 12 bag slots, and it's going to be as much water as I can buy. I'm spending all of my gold on water as I level. It's awful. This would be the perfect rune to have at level 2 for balanced druids. And Resto and Feral. Because
think about
has
this
talents.
too. Like, at level 2... Like you when you create a fresh character, you land in Mulgore or Shadowglen. What do you have equipped? You have a shirt, you have some crap pants, and a stick, and that's it. At level 2, maybe like there's a couple of quests in the starting zones that give you like a pair of gloves or a chest or whatever. And I don't think you get any legs from quests for like a while. Like you would have to find them. They'd be like a gray piece or whatever.
This is why table's here. That's some fucking big brain shit.
When you really think about it, it doesn't make sense for a leg rune to be the first rune you get because you might not even have it doesn't make sense for it to be like a glove rune or like you have pants on, like level 1 you do have pants, you do have a chest, you don't have gloves. There is a quest in Shadowglen for sure to get gloves, the archery training gloves. You get those from one of the first quests that you do. So it could be a glove rune because of that, but you don't have to choose the gloves from that. You could choose whatever the other thing is. I don't know. Like there's little stuff like that. Like you're not guaranteed to have a piece of gear in that slot. You might have to find a gray to have an item in that slot. So it's like some of those considerations probably went into which starting zones get which rune slots. And they already said that every starting zone is going to have different rune discovery stuff. So like who knows if that means it'll be a different rune entirely? Like we don't know. There's so much stuff that we don't know about the way it's going to work out. Like there's like you got to keep stuff like that in mind before you like get too in the weeds about it. Like it literally, no matter what, we don't know.
I like what Shock said. Maybe the rune quest gives you a starter glove or whatever to put it in, because I don't imagine
it doesn't.
we're going to be able to. I don't think we're going to be able to put runes into gray items. I think it's going to have to be a green item.
No, I think you can put them into anything. I think you can put them into anything.
That would feel so weird to put it in a gray item.
Oh yeah, but you're not going to have like green items, are you? Like it'd feel even weirder to have to wait until you was lucky enough for a level 5 green pair of gloves to drop or something. You know what I mean? That'd be awful. But what Ryan said. So let me just clarify why I'm so cocksure about gloves. So what there is at BlizzCon, when it was during the announcement, there was actually a screenshot on the screen behind Agrand of a paladin doing the level 2 quest. And the level 2 quest, he was handing in
was it Crusader Strike?
It was Crusader Strike. He was handing in the level 2 quest that rewarded Crusader Strike. There was no other reward. It was just Crusader Strike. And that makes sense. As a paladin at level 2, getting Crusader Strike.
So like by that logic, if paladins are going to get Crusader Strike at level 2, why wouldn't druids be able to get stormrage at level 2?
Well, yeah, all right. Let's say stormrage was an option. All right, so we won't rule it out. We'll say it's an option. So far our options are Sunfire, Fury of the Stormrage. we can agree that it's not going to be any of the others. And then if we was to look at legs, it's definitely not going to be Savage Roar. You've not got Cat. Definitely not going to be Skull Bash. You haven't got Cat, Bear. Is Skull Bash for both Bear and Cat? It is, isn't it? Should be both.
Yeah, it's Bear. Yeah. So it's basically either Life Bloom or Star Surge.
And Life Bloom, you're not going to be given a heal. Like, again, would be ridiculous to give you a Life Bloom at level 2. But could potentially be Star Surge. So we're already from 12, we're down to 3. We're saying Sunfire, Star Surge, or Fury of the Stormrage. I would rule out Fury of the Stormrage because that's meant to be that's actually meant for healers. Like that, you're not getting that early. And I would actually rule out. I wouldn't rule out Star Surge. Actually, I would be between Star Surge and Sunfire. 100%.
So let me tell you why I would pick Star Surge over Sunfire, because Star Surge is 3% of your base mana, or Star Surge is 21% of your base mana. So going back again to how shit our mana is that low level, if it's a 3% of our base mana for Star Surge, that's fine, because even Moonfire at that low level sucks. Like, you hardly ever a Moonfire. We get it at like level 4, level 6, something like that, but it just costs so much fucking mana. But 3% of our base mana, it's going to cost like 2-3 mana. Okay, like I'll Star Surge and pull a couple mobs. But still, dude, Fury of the Stormrage. I'll put money on it.
All right,
I'll because I know you would be like, okay, yeah.
I'll take that bet. Like I, again, yeah, it'd be amazing for leveling, but that is not what that rune's there for. That rune is there for healers to be able to do a bit more of a hybrid role, be able to do damage, throw out heals. That is not Fury of the Stormrage. It's a resto talent. It's a resto talent in Cataclysm. It is not. It is not for boomies, even though you'll use it and it will be amazing. But you're not going to get it at level 2.
Available before you're ready to do your first dungeon. That's when I would expect Fury of the Stormrage should be available. Like in time for your first dungeon. Like by the time you're ready to run a dungeon, you should probably have Fury of the Stormrage.
Yeah.
So
I actually
at level 2.
I think
that's definitely in time.
I think you'll be able to get it at level 10 for reasons that I will not spoil.
10's fine. 10 is I would accept 10. If Star Surge is 2, then Fury of the Stormrage 10, I'd be okay.
Well, so how if I was to just read a line of text? That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to read a line of text, and then you tell me out of all the runes which one you think it could be referring to. Balance the powers of the Moon, Emerald Dream, and Wild to learn a new ability.
Oh, Sunfire.
Okay, balance it that the Moon, Emerald Dream, and Wild. See, I'm thinking.
I don't know, but Wild. Wild sounds feral-ish to me.
You're talking about like the item that you pick up, right? Because like there's like the data mine stuff that was added has like items in them that are very clearly like it's an item that you use and that teaches you a rune.
Yeah.
Is that like the flavor text on one of those?
That's the flavor. That's the flavor text on one of those. Yeah. So yeah, it could be Star Surge.
Just seems like a general thing that it'll say for any of those that you pick up.
Well, no. Obviously, there are very specifics, as in it tells you exactly how to get the rune. Obviously, I'm not reading that out, but it tells you exactly how to get the rune and what the rune is. It's just that one's unspecified. I think that level 10, I think that's about right. I think level 10 could be Fury of the Stormrage. Or if it was Star Surge, now that removes Star Surge. If we said, oh, actually, yeah, that could be Star Surge, then that removes it from the potential level 2 rune. Now you only have Sunfire, which happens to be a glove rune, which we know paladins get a glove rune at level 2. I still think everyone's going to get a glove rune at 2.
Yeah, it's at this point it's basically like, okay, like it's like hopium versus, like I think Go and I both would prefer Fury of the Stormrage at level 2. Because then there's just no downtime. You're just ripping through the starting zone without any issues and like not stopping at all until you need to heal yourself, and then you do it instantly because by then you definitely have a proc.
That don't sound overpowered at all. Like,
I mean, dude, Druid is one of the slowest leveling classes. Like that's why to me it would have made sense for it to be Fear of the Stormrage, because it's like if you want people to feel powerful, make them go faster. You know, like Druid is so slow until you get Bear that it would make sense to put in a rune early that speeds it up.
I just think get Bear and Cat early. Like, honestly, I think that solves it all.
If you went back and watched the hardcore speedrunning leveling tournaments to get to, like, you had 4 hours, look how many druids were struggling to reach that level cap, the minimum level cap, while others would reach the cap and still have like an hour. Like, druid just levels so slow.
Yeah, but most of the like druid representatives, you know, YouTubers and that, they're all fucking terrible since I went paladin.
we usually don't show up for stuff either.
So it's your fault the average went down. No, we don't show up for stuff because it's like, what's the point? I'm not going to hit the level. Like,
yeah, I'll do something else. I'm joking. The druid community is fucking amazing.
We did like the Wailing Caverns Cup, and like I did some speed run practice on the SOM servers before they went down to try and see, because like for the Wailing Caverns Cup, I was like, I want to hit at least level 18 before the time is up, so that I can have hibernate going into Wailing Caverns, because we could do some trash skips if I have for hibernate. Like I have an extra CC available, we could potentially do some skips, like, you know, hibernate something, get to an evade spot, let it reset, like whatever. And the closest I got to 18 once with like 10 minutes to spare in the time limit, but it was on an empty dead SOM server. The Wailing Caverns Cup was on a SOM server, so it's like it's not like it was like, you know, unrealistic for me to be leveling with the XP boost or whatever. But like it still wasn't a realistic depiction of what it would have been like, because during the actual cup, you're not leveling on a dead server. You're competing for mob tags with people. It's gonna be slower. So like
you got Moonfire. You can't lose tags. What are you talking about?
No, I'm talking. It's not just that. It's like
it's then killing it afterwards.
Rate, like all everything, like just areas being crowded. Like Darkshore is such a busted leveling zone early that so many people, if their class was capable of being a night elf, they were rolling night elves for the Wailing Caverns Cup because of how fast Darkshore is to level in. So like the starting zone was a clusterfuck. So it's like instantly, like all of my splits were all out of whack and like way slower than normal because there were so many people there and the mobs weren't respawning fast enough. So it's like, even with that, even with practicing leveling a druid fast, yeah, sure, you can get fast at it, you know, fast for a druid.
Yeah.
But as soon as you add other people in the mix and you're competing for stuff, for anything, whether it's like an item on the ground that has to respawn that you're trying to loot, or mobs that aren't spawning fast enough for everybody to get the tags in, it's slow no matter what.
I am trolling you both, you know that. Like, I just want to put it out there, like, you know, I've leveled hundreds of druids, literally hundreds, and I put druid and hunter in the same boat from 1 to 10. Like and hunter, don't get me wrong, like it's not weak, but like 1 to 10 for a druid is awful, and 8 to 10 specifically as a hunter is horrible. Literally the worst 2 levels of a hunter is 8 to 10, because all the mobs are starting to get more powerful and you can't just rip them apart before they get into melee range. But a druid all the way from 1 to 10, it's not great. It is great for mob tagging, but then the unfortunate bit is the fact that you do need to kill it after you've tagged it, and your mana, you struggle with mana. But then it is such a different game, isn't it? That second you go, you know, just outside, you know, where the barons are, you know, over to the edge towards bloody. If you was running towards Thunder Bluff, that's where you use the stone thing in it to actually do the Horde Bear form, or in Ashenvale, not Ashenvale, what's the place called? Astronar, for Alliance. And as soon as you've done that quest, it's like, shit, now...
The Bear form quest?
Yeah, once you finish the Bear form quest, like, then it becomes a different game. Like, now...
It's Aberdeen.
Aberdeen. Yeah, Aberdeen. Yeah. So once you get like that, 10 to 60 is just an absolute joke. Like one of the most fun classes to actually level. But 1 to 10, like you'll get to 10 when warriors, rogues, mages, warlocks, like pretty much anybody else, and everybody else, will be like 12, 13. They'll get like a good couple of like full levels on you. because it's just a bit painful. But you're going to have Sunfire now, so that's going to make it all much better.
For single target, well, I mean, it's multi-dotting. I feel like it's a really strong dot the way the tooltip is reading currently. So to me, that has like highest prio. It's like Fairy Fire and then Sunfire. And then we could theory craft the rest of the rotation after that. But yeah, Sunfire just seems like it's going to be that good.
Alliance, Ernest. Alliance first. I mean, on the basis I'm probably going to go Mage. I could be swayed to go Horde first.
Horde first for me, for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would still prefer Alliance first, actually. I want a human mage. A human mage.
Human.
Anyway, where was we? So, that was a good little section that we didn't even plan. You know, really whittling down what rune you're likely to be getting first. And I would put money on Sunfire.
Just doing the only thing that we can do with 8 days to go until launch is overthinking everything.
yeah, absolutely. So now let's actually have a look through the runes. So we've already spoke about lacerate. Mangle. I mean, what do you think of Mangle table? I know it's a fairly basic one, but
yeah, I mean, it's basically the it's like the claw replacement. You know, like in TBC, when you get access to Mangle, you take claw off your bar and pretend it never existed. Costs the same, like when it's talented and everything like that, it'll cost the same. It does way more damage than claw does, so there's literally no reason to ever use claw anymore once you get Mangle. So like, it's going to be the cat leveling glyph, for sure. It's going to be your main combo point generator while you're leveling in cat form, regardless of anything else. So if you're primarily going to be in cat form, you want Mangle on your gloves for sure. In a raid environment where you're actually able to shred, you want to keep Mangle applied, kind of like the same thing in TBC and Wrath. You want to keep Mangle applied to boost all your other stuff. So it's a good one to get for DPS for sure. If you're feral DPS, yeah, Mangle's the no-brainer. If you're the only feral, because you're buffing yourself. If there's more than one feral, I could see a case for only one feral in the whole raid to take Mangle, because there's only one needs to be up. Like once one is up, it boosts everything that everybody else does. So like you don't necessarily need it. If somebody else already has it, you could potentially take something else like Sunfire. For bear, like I could see, like, for dungeon tanking, Mangle instead of lacerate, I could see. Or while you're doing trash, Mangle, because it's going to be better snap threat. Because lacerate's threat is not all up front. It's a tiny bit up front, but the majority of lacerate's threat comes from the dot as well. Like, you get some extra threat from the initial application of it, but then it's continuous threat because of the bleed. Whereas Mangle is all of the threat is completely up front. So Mangle is better for snap threat. So for tanking dungeons, I can see using Mangle for trash, or even in raids on trash, Mangle instead of lacerate, unless it's like a particularly long-lived enemy, and then it might make sense to go lacerate instead of Mangle. But for snap threat, Mangle, for sustained threat, lacerate, for tanking, for sure. But yeah, Mangle is definitely, like, you want at least one Mangle in any raid group, because there's enough classes that are able to apply bleeds that you would want those bleeds to be boosted by Mangle.
So thoughts on Mangle go? All right, cool. Moving on. So I
do have one.
Oh, I do have one as well, which I'm just going to throw in there, and it does look like you'll be able to get the Mangle rune at level 10. So it looks like, at level 10, if you can find it, who knows? You might not find it till 17, 18 or whatever, but looks like it should be available by level 10.
I could see it being like a thing, because like warriors get like an instant strike ability that they're probably going to have access to at level 10 as well. It makes sense that bear form would also get an instant strike thing, because otherwise you're literally just waiting for your auto timer to maul or white hit, and that's kind of boring. Having something instant to cast it feels better.
Yeah.
Just for like bleeds and stuff, are they affected by armor reduction? So like, do I need to have Fairy Fire up on a mob first and then
bleeds bypass armor
by default?
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my only question with like Mangle. Like, how would that work with Fairy Fire? But yeah, okay.
Good question, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So Mangle. Yeah. I've got nothing to add. Literally, other than the fact that it does last a minute, which is amazing. Like that really is.
Yeah,
that is really good
from TBC.
Yeah. I mean, a full minute is that's banging.
Yeah, that's good quality of life right there. It'll be interesting to see. Like I see in chat there, Chrono Raiders talking about Savage Roar damage increase, making Mangle better than Sunfire. The thing we don't know is whether or not Mangle or whether or not Sunfire Bear and Sunfire Cat will have any sort of modifiers based on attack power. Like Sunfire, of course, is a spell. So if you're in human form or like Moonkin form at later levels, it would make sense for it to have a spell power coefficient. But will the bear and the cat versions have an attack power coefficient instead, or will it just be basically static damage because you have no spell power? That's going to be something that we don't know, and we can't know unless Blizzard says something ahead of time or until we get in there to test it ourselves.
Yeah. It's kind of got to have an attack power coefficient to it, or well, it just then removes it, in my opinion. Anyway, if it hasn't got an attack power coefficient, the later on we get in the game, it just completely removes it as an option for Feral.
Right.
Would it be like a strength one for the bear portion?
Yeah, like instead of it having its damage increased by spell power, it would be increased by attack power instead, is what we mean.
It'd be like attack power for both like DPS and for tanking then.
Yes.
Like, I was thinking like if it was rage built, then it would go off of your strength or something maybe, but it's
strength either way. Like cats get strength from attack power and agility, bear only gets it from strength. So if it was going to be based on strength only instead of attack power, I guess that would still make sense.
Yeah. So the other not interesting thing is fairly obvious, but we let's say we are 80% sure that you're going to start with Sunfire. Yeah. So as a druid, you're going to have Sunfire and Moonfire. When you're in caster form, because it only replaces Moonfire if you're in bear or cat. So actually, like Sunfire and Moonfire together, and then just meleeing, that might actually be really quick, to kill mobs. Like, I don't know. It's going to depend how much damage it does, obviously, but the
if
1 to 10
damage,
with it,
it's almost a bad thing because you don't have time to regen while you're meleeing.
yeah, that's true. But, having 2 dots on the target and then meleeing, I don't know, that might actually be really good up until 10. And then when you ding, at 10, you get bear form, and now you've got a way to... You're going to need rage in the first place, but, you're fighting one mob, and then it's on, 10% health, boom, you start Sunfire in one that's a little way away, pulling that in while you finish the other one off. Like, it could actually be a really good, like, all-round leveling rune. All the way to 25. Even though Mangle does sound, obviously, a lot better if you're leveling using bear and cat. But Sunfire, I think it could have its place if it does enough damage.
Yeah, but also like the thing you said about like how if it doesn't have an attack power coefficient and it's just basically static damage and eventually other stuff will outpace it, that's pretty vanilla. Because that happens with a bunch of stuff. Like Purify and Cleanse for Paladins. Once you get Cleanse, you never use Purify again because Cleanse is just a better Purify, costs the same amount, and it does extra stuff. So why would you ever use Purify once you have a Cleanse? Same thing with in like TBC onwards with Cat. Once you get Mangle, you never use Claw again. You take it off your bar, pretend it never existed. So it's like that's pretty vanilla for stuff to become irrelevant as you get something better. Like that's pretty vanilla.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is absolutely true. Well, and the last one's Wild Growth, and quite honestly, I don't think we really need... We've already covered Wild Growth in the first part of this episode, which you can go back and see. I'll have to put a link in the description to the first part. We had internet power issues, But yeah, it's going to heal all party members of the selected target. So it's going to be a 5-person heal over 7 seconds. Quite expensive. 28% mana, I think it was put up to, off the top of my head. So expensive heal, not really overly relevant until you start healing dungeons, DFD, that sort of thing. Anyone, either of you got anything to say about Wild Growth? Or?
I actually want to go back to Mangle for a sec, because Michael Rocco said something interesting in chat there. He's talking about Mangle. He thinks Mangle might be straight up stronger than Shred. Shred's 225% plus, whatever, depending on the rank. For 40 energy. Mangle Cat is 300%. Which is which, though? I don't know, because there's two different Mangles that are listed. The one is Mangle the target for 160% normal damage and, the normal effects. Benefits from stuff that is associated with Claw and Maul. And then the other one is Mangle the target for 300%. We don't know, which is which, though. We're not sure which is which.
I mean, if it goes in order, it actually makes sense that, because it says gain the Mangle Bear ability. So Mangle Bear would be 160%, Cat 300, but that seems the wrong way around.
I just clicked the glyph and I'm scrolling down to the effects and whatever, and when you mouse over each of the icons or whatever, the 160% one is the rage cost one and requires bear. So that one looks like it's probably the bear one, and then the 300% one is energy for cat form. But they've been adjusting stuff and whatever. I don't think that they would want to make Mangle better than Shred. It doesn't make sense to me for them to make Mangle better than Shred. So I think that'll get nerfed. I don't think 300% will stick around. I think it'll get nerfed because it makes it's 300% normal damage, whereas Shred is 225% plus whatever. For Mangle to be better than Shred, that plus whatever on Shred would have to be less than the remainder of that 75% to go from 225 to 300. So it's there's a bunch, and it depends on what your white damage is and stuff like that. There's a bunch of stuff that'll go into it, but I think 300% is too strong. I don't think Mangle should be more powerful than Shred. I don't think that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would agree, but if it does go out like that, that also changes a few different things, even in terms of talents, don't it? Because then you're saving yourself 2 points, not needing improved Shred. It would have a knock-on effect. But yeah, it wouldn't make sense for Mangle to be your... Mangle is something that you maintain, something that you keep up. Not something that you use as an actual primary combo builder, unless you can't get behind the boss. In which case, that changes, but...
Yeah, they could have also accidentally swapped the values, because if you go to Wrath Wowhead and look up Mangle Bear, Mangle Cat, the modifiers are different for there too, and it's the other way around.
And cat form doesn't have a cooldown, according to this tooltip, but bear form has a 6-second cooldown.
Yeah, I mean,
so as a cat, you could tab target Mangle, get the debuff on everything, but as a bear, you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I mean, I could kind of see that if it was the other way round in terms of the damage. So if Mangle Bear's got a 6-second cooldown, but it's doing 300% normal damage, whereas Mangle Cat, obviously it's got no cooldown, but now you're limited by energy anyway, but it's 160%. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Anyway. I'm wrong anyway. The Mangle Cat has a higher normal damage modifier than Mangle Bear does. I was looking at the wrong thing.
Okay.
Every single thing that's called Mangle in Wowhead comes up when you type Mangle. I had to type parentheses cat.
I think so, Ryan. If it was like this, and it in a live state, I would say Mangle would be better. I think that's a really good spot.
One question for you, Table. What would you prefer for the combo point wise? Do your combo points stay on whatever target you're hitting last? And then if you switch to a new target, your combo points go away? Is that how that worked back in Era?
In vanilla, if you switch targets at all, your combo points disappeared.
Yeah, do you think it's going to stay like that? Would you prefer it to change to where?
I would prefer for it to change, but if it did change, it wouldn't be vanilla.
The only thing
SOD is not vanilla.
The only thing I'd like, so yeah, I again agree with Table, but the only one thing I'd like is to actually, when a target dies, the combo points stay on the dead target, so you could Savage Roar off it. That is something. Yeah, exactly. I love the fact that those combo points still, even though the target's died, they're not completely wasted, because you can go bang, I'll get a 3-point Savage Roar up, and it sort of encourages you to not feel like you're getting too punished by target switching in that case, because the combo points are not being wasted. But that's probably a big ask, because that's not even a thing in Wrath. We are talking Kata.
Right. Yeah, I remember in Kata and Beyond doing that on my rogue. You kill a thing, and then whatever combo points you had left, you just throw up a recuperate and go on to your next target.
Exactly. So I'd love to see that, but I doubt. Yeah, I doubt we would.
Yeah, I don't think they would do that. I mean, the vanilla version of combo points, yeah, if you switch targets for any reason, your combo points get wiped. Even on a rogue, if you have a mouse over kick macro, even if you do a mouse over kick, it'll wipe your combo points when you do that. Even if you don't actually like hard swap targets, if you do anything to a different target, it wipes your combo points. So like you could be in cat form and have a mouse over a fairy fire feral macro, and you mouse over something in fairy fire feral, and it'll wipe your combo points on your current target. So like it's the vanilla version of combo points is rough.
And that's another good point with what Anthony just said in chat about, shred would be used when you get an omen proc. Because I suppose we are looking at the 300% mangle normal damage, but once you've got mangle up, your shred is naturally going to be doing 30% more damage anyway. And that's going to be 30% more damage, not 30% as in tooltip, it's going to be 30% of the damage that it would ordinarily do. It's going to be another 30% on, right? So it's like the 30% of the overall damage that shred would have done. And then so then factoring in that the shred where it's weapon damage, normal damage plus X amount, which what is the, what rank are we going to have?
It'll be rank 1.
It is only going to be rank 1, what is...
Rank 1 is 225% plus 54.
Plus 54. So I don't know. I still think shred. Yeah, I reckon shred would still do more damage than a mangle. I mean, we could sit and actually work it out.
It's just at that point, it's a damage per energy question because you're only gonna have one, the build that feral DPS should be running at 25 is the omen build. You shouldn't be going down to imp shred. So it's going to be whatever the total damage of shred divided by 60 is the damage per energy. And then which will depend on what your white damage is too, because it's percent of your weapon damage, which like people get caught up in this all the time. But for feral, when you go into form and you see on your character screen, your character tab or whatever, where it says damage, like melee damage, where it says that's the damage that all that other stuff is based off of. It's not your equipped weapon; it's what it says your damage is on your character sheet right there.
Your paw damage.
So it's 225% of that plus 54 versus 300% of that for Mangle. Whatever that is divided by the energy cost, that's your damage per energy. I could see maybe Mangle could be better damage per energy. Maybe. I could see that. And if that's the case, then yeah, we probably would only use shreds with Omen procs.
Which that would still be quite an interesting play style. Before you've got certainly got improved as well. So every Omen proc, you're actively trying to get a shred out and then mangle the rest of the time. It's all speculation until we see what they're actually doing in it. But
yeah, and like the fact that they've made changes to runes up to this point already, like they could adjust things for the Mangle rune. Like we don't know if it's going to stay 300% for Cat. Like they could nerf it. Depending on how strong it actually ends up being, they could nerf it. It depends on whether or not they want Mangle to be stronger than Shred.
Oh, Michael, get the fuck out, man! Don't be throwing comments like that around, just in case bloody Agron watches this or something. Don't start giving them ideas. Come on, you've been going with really good input and information, and you throw something like that in here.
Well,
jeez.
I was watching some of the footage from BlizzCon, and there were ferals that were dropping form to do stuff, and they still had Savage Roar on them.
Oh,
it didn't disappear when they left form.
All right, dodge the bullet. I'm only joking, Michael, obviously. But yeah, that would be interesting. Right, okay, we're at the ham runes. Let's move on, or we're going to be here all night, and this is only a 1 hour podcast, so. I'm gonna let you talk about this. Fury of the stormrage, because I'm gonna just go for a piss and grab a beer. But
all right, so once we get it at level 2 from our quest,
Correct.
It's gonna be insane to get to level 10 when we go to bear form.
Setting world records, bro.
I mean, it's got a lot of use while leveling, almost eliminating downtime, which is huge. Like, I'm looking forward to it. I hope we get it ASAP at level, like the whole thing where it's like healers using this at level 25. I'm not too sure about that. It's what 12% chance for the heal I don't know. But I love it. I mean, I hope somehow they use this to tie into other stuff in future levels. I don't know what they could do with it, but boosting Wrath's damage somehow for a resto, because they're not going to be getting spell power gear probably. They're going to be getting plus healing gear. So it should maybe start losing value the higher level restos get. And then same thing for me, like I'm not going to be getting plus healing gear, so if I'm using this to level, my heals will still heal me, but not that much.
Yeah, I mean, like the base healing on most of the healing spells is fine for general sustain. Like I don't know, just on area, anytime I finish like a fight where I got like below half health, like a regrowth and a rejuve during combat is usually enough to sustain me for the rest of the fight. And then like afterwards, it's just a healing touch and a rejuve, and then I go on to the next thing. Like, so like, and that's in with like agility gear and stuff. So once you start getting some spell power and stuff, yeah, I could see it becoming more of something you actually consider.
Well, there's kind of no option, is there? But for Boomy, like that balance in particular, there is no option. So like at 25, you will use Fury of the Stormrage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like you were saying earlier about like the whole like it's a healer talent or whatever in Kata, and it's like, you know, Kata's when it started to be like, okay, healers are expected to contribute a little bit on damage now or whatever, but obviously in vanilla it's not really like that. So it's like I see Fury of the Stormrage as a combination of like a glyph that maybe a hybrid healer would want to take instead of Living Seed if you're like a raid healer. You know, when the raid's not taking damage, you're just slinging wraths, and then when somebody takes damage, you know, you maybe have a proc and you spend it on instant healing touch on that person. But if you're a tank healer, you're going to want Living Seed, obviously. But like Fury of the Stormrage, like that's the only thing in that slot that it makes sense for a balanced Rune to take in the first place. But it's also got that like extra little thing for, you know, a hybrid healer or whatever too, or a raid healer.
Yeah, and then even higher level for a balanced druid, that healing touch is going to be null and void because we're going to be in Moonkin form. We're not going to want to cast a healing touch that's going to shift us out of Moonkin and then have to shift back into Moonkin. So we'll take advantage of the Wrath costing 0 mana for sure, and that's going to help. Like even running low level dungeons before we get to BFD, running like not Blackfathom Deeps, that's BFD, RFC, like running RFC, getting pre-raid gear. I spend 80% of the dungeon drinking while all the melee are up there just carrying the damage. So having this to even get in early enough for RFC would be great.
Yeah, I feel like it needs to be around a level 10 rune. Like, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, 10's fine. But 2 is when we're going to get it.
Yeah. I hope so for you. All right, cool. But yeah, I like Fury of the Stormrage. I like, even from a healer perspective, you know, I like when you're stood there as a healer and you've got full mana and no one's taking damage, you are literally just standing there. You know, you're
just regenning.
Yeah, you might as well do something.
The thing that's nice about Fear of the Stormrage is since it removes the mana cost of Wrath, your MP5 can continue to tick while you're slinging Wraths because Wrath is free with the rune. So you're still regenning, but now you're also contributing damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's a cool rune.
It's not going to trigger the 5-second rule since it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
And what healers could do is instead of spending 5 talent points to reduce the cast time of Wrath, just downrank Wrath to rank 1, which is a base cast of 1.5 seconds. So they might not be doing damage per se, but they'll still be able to fish for those procs for an instant cast.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good shout. I feel like I'd still want to use max rank. Like, it's free. I want to do as much damage as possible, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you'll be freeing up 5 talent points to spend elsewhere, and you'll still be getting that benefit. But yeah, I mean, the damage is going to be reduced.
Yeah. Yeah, good shout, though. All right, so, I mean, Living Seed. We don't really need to talk a great deal about Living Seed. It's pretty boring. Yeah, tank healing, exactly. If you're not a resto druid, you are never taking this. Like, full stop. There's no other, unless you haven't happened to get the rune that you actually want yet, and Living Seed is the only rune that you've found for your chest. Then all right, maybe you do use it. I was just making sure it was chest we're talking about. We are. It's fairly boring, and it's fairly boring even for resto druid because the vast majority of the time it's going to be wasted. Like it's only useful when you crit. We're going to have low levels of crit. The way resto druid, or what they're trying to do with resto druid, is make it like future expansion resto druids, where you are a hot healer. You're going to be using rejuve. You're going to be using wild growth. You're going to have life bloom. Your direct heals is not really what you're going to be taken for. Like if you're being taken for your direct heals, like what is your raid leader thinking? Take a paladin, take a shaman,
I mean, like the vanilla style of resto healing back when, in actual vanilla and in vanilla classic, because of the buff cap, resto druids were not hot healers.
No.
In vanilla classic, you were basically downranking healing touch, and you were acting like it was like a flash heal sort of situation because you couldn't rejuve. So like this Living Seed rune kind of seems like it's playing off of that like OG vanilla style where like you're just pumping healing touches out. So like, with enough crit, if you're critting with your healing touches, then like, yeah, you're going to be putting Living Seeds on people.
Yeah. But then it's quite contrary.
Like as a preemptive thing, kind of like how disc priests do preemptive shields in Wrath, or just priests in general will do preemptive shields before a lot of damage goes out. Like you could see if there's like a raid wide thing that's about to happen. Like I could see a resto druid wanting to like do some downranked healing touches on people to try and fish for crits to get some Living Seeds out, so that when that raid wide damage goes out, they get the seed pop or whatever. But like it's not guaranteed because it has to crit for it to happen. So like, if you get lucky, every one of your healing touches crits, and then the seed goes off. But if you're unlucky, then none of them crit, and then you're in a hole a bunch of mana.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good thought though. It lasts 15 seconds, so when the pull timer's up and you're spamming, a few healing touches on your tanks mainly, that's probably what you're going to focus on. You heal and touch your tanks until they get it, and then you sit and drink again for the last few seconds of the full timer, to get your mana back up. I think that's a really, really good idea, actually. Pretty much not the only use for it, but like it would be a really good use for it. I'd still go Fury to Stormrage.
It's almost like how we pre-gifted the Wild in Wrath for an Omen proc. This would be like the resto version of that before a boss fight, because like the first few seconds of a boss fight are usually the most dangerous for the tank, because the healers have to be pre-casting stuff so that the heals land immediately as soon as the boss swings at the tank or whatever. And if nobody's pre-casting, then the tank can get gibbed pretty quick. So like this could be like the sod resto version of a gift weave before a pull in Wrath, how Ferals do, where you spam the tank, or like how resto shamans and priests do right now with Inspiration, where they'll downrank, or not downrank, but like they'll spam, some heals on the tank before the pull starts. So they start with Inspiration. I could see resto druids doing this to tanks pre-pull to start them with a Living Seed. So as soon as the boss attacks them, they get a heal immediately.
Yeah, no, I think it's not only a really good idea, I see it actually being something that people will do. So,
or they will now that we said it on this podcast. You heard it here first, folks.
And like Michael's just said, I played a resto druid main in 2019, and he hit for like 6k crits on the tank, and then that's like an 1800 absorb essentially. Yeah, when they get hit, boom, 1800, health straight back. Yeah, could be pretty sick.
Dude, I mean, people see resto druids as a raid healer. That's how they've always kind of been. But like this glyph or this rune alone could make resto druids resto druids were always a serviceable tank healer, but this could change things. This could shake things up a little bit, shake up the meta, as Anna was saying during BlizzCon. Like this could make resto druids a really solid tank healer, like with the Living Seed on, that you basically gear like how a Holy Paladin does, where you just aim for crit, get huge healing touches out for huge Living Seeds, and and the tank always has living seed basically.
Yeah, I like it.
Especially if downranking is going to stay a thing in SOD, like the way it was in vanilla. You downrank to like rank 4 healing touch, so they're quick, or rank 7 or something like that. Like, so it's a little faster than max rank, and just have the good efficient healing power coefficient on the spell, so it's still going to be a big heal. Not as much overhealing, but like that's the other thing to think about too. Is the 30% of the amount healed, is that the total healing of the spell or the amount of healing that is actually applied to the target? Because if it's overhealing and if it's chopped by overhealing, then that 30% could be not as impactful. So like that's something that we won't know unless Blizzard says something about it beforehand or until we get in game to test it.
Yeah, cool. That's Living Seed in a nutshell. Survival of the Fittest. Again,
I'm thinking of this as a possible room for a balanced druid in PvP if we're trying to like flag carry, in particular in Warsong.
Forget that. Just all the time, man. That's a strong room.
You spend so much time in bear form. It's like the mana cost reduction for Wrath and the heal is nice for PvP. Like absolutely, never going being able to do damage, but survival of the fittest is pretty strong, I think.
Well,
for PvP.
I agree. Like, I, as a PvP druid, I would 100% be taking survival of the fittest because you're gonna get even when you're in caster form, you're gonna take 10% less damage. When you're in bear form, you're gonna take 20% less damage. Like that's huge.
Like, reducing chance to get crit. Yeah.
It's only from melee
trying
attacks.
To crit.
It's only crit from melee attacks. If range attacks don't count, spells don't count.
Yeah,
that's fine though.
That's still, it's still strong. That's like...
It's still good, yeah, but it's not as, it's not across the board 6% crit suppression. It's only for melee hits.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you, Go. Like, if I was a balanced druid PvPing, for me, there's no options there. It's just survival of the fittest. Because even Fury the Stormrage, in PvP, you're not that bothered about mana as much. Let's say we're doing Warsong Gulch. You're going to be having a fight and nuking people down, and then you get to sit and drink for a minute. Then you carry on. It's not like you're having to constantly go at it and at it and at it for like 6-7 minutes straight, like a boss fight. It's I think I would be going survival of the fittest. I'd be going probably even as feral. I would be going survival of the fittest because
for PvP.
Yeah, for PvP. I mean, Wild Strikes is nice, but we are talking RNG now, and it's. You're buffing the party, which might not always be near you. They might not always be casters. We are talking now pug PvP, like queuing for a Warsong Gulch.
Wild is 20 yards, so...
yeah, exactly. So I'd probably, as a feral, run and survival of the fittest. Yeah, and party members, exactly. You might get in a Warsong Gulch and all your party members are mages. You don't know what they're going to be. Whereas survival of the fittest like that is just strong all round for like just everything. Yeah, I like the fact that it comes from a rune. I mean, as a tank druid table, there's no options, I suppose, really, is there either?
Well, it depends, because in Vanilla Classic, we didn't care about getting crit. Boss crits weren't dangerous enough for us to give a shit about getting crit, and also there wasn't really any defense on leather gear anyway. So like the whole point of bringing a druid as a tank to a raid in Vanilla Classic was giant armor, giant health pool. Didn't matter whether you got crushed, whether you got crit. Didn't matter. Your health and armor was high. Your EHP was high enough to soak it no matter what. Mm-hmm. So like, if they're adding this to me, and I've said this in comments and stuff. I think I commented on one of Sart's videos about this even, and like I've said stuff like this in like the Druid Discord and my own Discord and stuff like that as well, about how the fact that they're adding this to me suggests that they're going to make boss crits matter in SOD. Why would they add a crit suppression rune for bears who didn't previously care about getting crit? Why would they add this unless boss crits were actually going to be dangerous in SOD?
Yeah, and for the only people who don't get the 6% crit reduction is, I'm pretty sure, just warriors. I can't remember whether Paladin had it. Paladin might not either.
Paladins get it because like Paladins were wearing defense plate anyway.
Exactly. But yeah, like rogues, warlocks, shamans, druids, all getting the 6. Yeah, all getting crit immunity from runes.
Right. Which is like, why would they do that unless boss crits were going to matter and be dangerous and potentially one-shot the tank? You know what I mean? Or be like unrecoverable from a healing standpoint.
But
So
then
like,
it forces you into that rune, which kind of feels bad, I would say,
Right.
as a tank.
because like, and this is going back to what I said earlier about the whole decision between Mangle and Lacerate for a tank. If you're in a group, if you're the only feral druid in the group, they're going to want you to have wild strikes because you're going to buff the rest of the melee. You have to take that. So like, if boss crits are going to be dangerous enough that you need survival of the fittest, you can't bring a feral tank if you don't also bring a feral DPS so that you can still have wild strikes and mangle. So it's like, this is what I meant earlier about how like feral in 10-man rating, feral is one of the worst tank options because they require so much extra support by needing a second feral to get the most out of that tank druid. It's unfortunate to say that that's the case, but like so far it's what it's looking like. But this of course is contingent on whether or not threat is going to be that much of an issue where you need a mangle to boost the threat of lacerate, and whether or not boss crits are going to matter enough at 25 that you need survival of the fittest.
Or could we get like, I'm sure it was TBC, wasn't it? Like TBC level of crushing blows. You know, where, because they increased the level, didn't they? Where it was like crushing blows was removed off the table at 4 levels, whereas before it was 3. Like TBC crushing blows was a big deal, wasn't it? Whereas I don't remember it being a thing in vanilla, was it?
It was, crushes were still a thing in vanilla and TBC. It's not a thing in Wrath anymore, unless it's a 4. It has to be a 4 or higher level difference for you to get crushed in Wrath.
Oh, so vanilla you can still get crushing blows.
Yes, and in vanilla that was the big thing was crushing blows and crits. But like bears had so much health and so much armor that it didn't matter. Like I remember in Serpentine Cavern Prague in TBC Classic, I mained feral tank, and then we had a warrior tank as well. We were progging Tidewalker. I got crushed by Tidewalker, and it did about the same amount of damage to me in bear as a normal hit did to the warrior.
Yeah.
So like that's the level of EHP we're talking about, where like bears just didn't care about getting crit or crushed because it didn't matter, because our EHP was so high that it literally didn't matter. So like, again, the fact that survival of the fittest is in the game suggests to me that boss crits are going to matter. Even in Vanilla Classic, I mained a warrior tank in Vanilla Classic. I was a Fury Prot warrior, ignored defense, completely ignored defense, just full sent threat. It never mattered. Like if things got a little dangerous, I would just put on a shield. And that's all I had to do. Put on a shield block, uncrittable, uncrushable, just from shield block. It pushed everything off the attack table because shield block is so huge. Didn't have to care about defense at all, even as a warrior. So if they're adding these crit immunity runes in for the specs that normally don't get defense from their gear, to me, this is suggesting that boss crits are going to matter. Boss crits and boss crushes are going to be dangerous enough that you have to counteract them with gear or with runes.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting. Like, I mean, I hope so. I hope you're right, and I have a feeling you probably are. Like, it would be great to see. I don't want to say like super hard content, because I know that's not actually what Season of Discover is. Like aiming to be. Yeah, they want it to be fun. They want it to be, challenging to a certain extent. But it's not about like progging for 5 or 6 hours on one boss in Molten Core. That's not what they're setting out to do. But it would still be good, wouldn't it? That you do actually have to use all of your runes and synergize as a raid, instead of going, right, we're going to take 10 warriors, 8 rogues.
Yeah, because that was one of the big points that Nora was talking about at the BlizzCon, at the panel where she spoke about all the stuff for Season Discovery. It's like that was like the first thing she said was they wanted to shake up the meta. And the Vanilla Classic rating meta for tanking is a Fury Prot warrior who doesn't give a shit about defense, is not crit immune at all, and dual wield tanks. That's the meta in Vanilla Classic.
Yeah.
And a shakeup of that meta is, even for warriors, would be to have to care about getting defense capped. And all of these extra things they're adding in for threat, all this threat stuff that warriors are getting, suggests that, like, yes, it's going to be a significant chop to your threat to have to wear defense gear, because defense gear usually isn't geared towards threat at all. So you're making up for that lost threat with the runes, which will make up for the loss of threat from your gear. This is obviously, a lot of this is just confirmation bias, but like the way that it looks to me is that they're gonna make it matter.
No,
And that's
I
like
think you're 100% right.
They can do is to like change the way that those classes look at gearing and which pieces of gear that they go after. Like you're not gonna see a tank warrior going after chromatic boots in BWL. You're gonna see him probably wearing tier because tier has defense.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right, and like, you know, even one of the changes to the runes yesterday was in the warrior video. I sort of memed on it a little bit. The thunderclap rune for warriors. That's now been given 50% more threat with thunderclap if you use that rune. You know, so it is like, hang on, you're not going to be able to just charge in, dual wield, spamming cleave, and be able to hold threat on multiple mobs. You know, you're actually going to have to be sword and board, and, you know, thunderclap might be a large part of your threat on multiple mobs. You know, which...
Yeah.
I like it. I like that. That's how it fucking should be. Let's be fair. Yeah. That's what protection was meant to be. It was meant to be one hand and shield.
Right. But, like, that's the other thing, too, is, like, Fury Prop might still be the play talent-wise, because all of the talents that matter the most for tanking are in the top half of the protection tree anyway. You get Last Stand, Shield Block, Defiance, and then the rest of it's threat. The only reason you need to go further than that is if you want, like, reduced cooldown on taunt, reduced rage cost of Sunder Armor, reduced or increased duration of shield wall. Like, who cares about that? Like, if the meta is actually going to be Devastate Glyph or Devastate Rune, and you are actually sword and board, sure, maybe it'll make sense to grab Shield Slam. But other than that, like, you go to that tier of the warrior tree, get Defiance, get the 1 point in improved shield block, get Last Stand, and then just full send Fury and get Bloodthirst. And then it's the same way that it was in Vanilla Classic, where Bloodthirst was your ability that you used every 6 seconds instead of Shield Slam for the extra threat.
I'm just looking at how deep you could get down with just the talents that I've sort of... what's that? So that's damage done by offhand, so we can forget that. Like, this is not what you would pick. I'm just testing something. So, you know, like, I've gone shield specialization. You know, 5.
You don't go 2 out of 2.
Sorry, and what?
You just go 1 out of 2. You don't go 2 out of 2 for shield spec or for improved shield block.
Oh, it's 3. It's 3 points.
Yeah, you 1 point's all you need.
Oh, just 1. Okay, so if you went 1, all right. So yeah, you could get down to Bloodthirst.
1 point gives you the extra charge. The further points only increase the duration of the buff, which you never need.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. And that was picking up Defiance and Toughness, so getting 10% more armor, getting the defense. Yeah, shield specialization, 1 in shield block, and yeah, you can get all the way down to Bloodthirst, which, you know. But then that does make things a little bit difficult because you could drop some points.
Traditionally, you wouldn't even take the defense talent because you didn't need it because you didn't care about getting crit.
Yeah, we're saying like, now you do though, right? That's what we're, you know,
like,
we're sort of...
You still want Last Stand, like, so it shakes things up a bit on that, because then you might not have enough points to get down to Bloodthirst. So it's like, either way, this is a cool shakeup, because it's like, you know, and now we're, you know, we're in the weeds talking about warrior stuff now, but of course I made it in Vanilla Classic, so I have pretty extensive knowledge about that. So it was a good example in my head, but
so Devastate,
maybe not for the Druid episode.
No, but it's fine, because it's good to talk about, because we are talking about Druid tank. You know, we're just using warrior as a comparison. I mean, on the basis that, you know, Devastate, the glyph, the Devastate glyph, you know, can be improved by improved Sunder Armor, because it is based on Sunder Armor. Would you even want Bloodthirst? You know, maybe you'd want to go down to Flurry, and, you know, you want improved Sunder Armor. So Devastate is like your spender. Because when there's 5 stacks of Sunder, it does even more damage, don't it? It's like, it does 100% weapon damage increased by 10% per application. So once you've got 5 stacks, you know, you're going to be doing 150% weapon damage versus Bloodthirst. You know, so you might go a little bit deeper than normal. Like, I don't know. You know, I'm again just speculating.
Bloodthirst wouldn't be the analog, though. It would be Shield Slam. Like, you'd be using Bloodthirst instead of Shield Slam. Like, those are the 2 trade-offs, really. It's like, you know, do you go a Bloodthirst build or do you go a Shield Slam build? Like, that's the big thing. I think they would have to make... So, like, Shield Slam in later versions of the game, the damage was increased by your block value. I don't know if that's the case for the vanilla version, but they would probably have to make it that way for people to be more enticed into going deep prot than going fury prot. That's the biggest way that they could shake up the meta for warrior tanks specifically, is for it to be shield slam spec instead of bloodthirst spec. That would be the coolest shakeup. And then you go shield slam impale. That would be what you would do for threat.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway.
We'll go back to Druid, but but it's interesting. It is interesting. Because I'm intrigued to see how the tanking meta in general ends up. You know, as in, like, it would be amazing by level 60 for us to act like the best tank is Rogue. You know, which I actually think they look incredibly weak at 25, and I do mention that in the video that's going out maybe tonight, probably tomorrow. Like, you know, it's a very weird way to tank. It's very, like, it's a bit like a Brewmaster Monk, but it's not quite got what it needs yet. But we know there's going to be more to come, you know.
It's from what it sounded like, it was like different tanks were going to be better at different things, like better at tanking different bosses. So like a purely physical boss, Rogue would seem like it would be the obvious choice, because if it's 100% physical, that's like their bag. Or if it's like a range tank situation, like, you know, like the caster twin on twin amps in AQ, like warlocks were already the premier tank for that. Now they're going to be even better at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Survival of the fittest. Are we all happy? I mean, I'm happy. I actually think it's an incredibly strong talent for far more than just feral tanks.
I'm even thinking of it as Boomy at level 60, like soloing stuff at level 60 for like being crit immune, taking less damage. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Could other future runes help there be Moonkin tanks? So
what I'm hoping. And again, this is hopium, if that's what you want to put it. No, get the fuck out, go. You know, like the next tier of runes. Like, what I don't want is ability bloat. You know, I don't want us to get to the point where, like, we've just got ridiculous amounts of abilities now because, like, we're already looking good. You know, use a feral as an example. You know, you're keeping Mangle up, you'll keep Rake up, you'll keep Rip up, you're keeping Savage Roar up, you're going to be shredding on Omen of Clarity procs. You know, you might be power shifting. Let's throw that in there as well if we're talking, you know, at level 60. Like, they don't really now need anything else. Maybe Cat Swipe. All right, so a rune of Cat Swipe at some point wouldn't go amiss. But, you know, what we actually now need is runes that start affecting talents, start affecting abilities that we've already got, you know, rather than adding abilities. So when we get to level 40 and we get, let's say, cloak runes, the cloak runes will be something like, if we was to look at talents and use them as an example, you know, leader of the pack. So leader of the pack is just 3% crit. You know, you're not going to be able to get it. Let's say the level 50. You wouldn't be able to get that, would you, at 40? No, it would be 50.
Yeah. You can.
Oh, you can get for 40. Is that the 40th talent? You get the bottom of 40, mate. So yeah, all right, cool. So you get that. So let's say at level 40 there was actually runes that affected these things. So it was like leader of the pack. You know, when someone crits, they get 4% max health and 2% max mana. You know, we know it's something similar to what we see already. But
like Imp Leader of the Pack sort of situation.
Imp Leader of the Pack, exactly. And then like an Imp Swiftmend, where when you Swiftmend, it don't use the rejuve. And, you know, like, again, these are off the top of my head. I've not really put a great deal of thought into this, but have some more passives. They're passives. They're not new abilities. They're just things that are going to affect things you've already got in a unique way.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool because, like, some of, like, when you look at those bottom talents, like, you know, the level 40 unlocking that stuff should be a big deal. But, like, for Feral in particular, getting the leader of the pack is kind of meh. You know what I mean? Like, at level 40, I would almost rather skip leader of the pack and, like, start going down other trees and whatever. Like, a level 40 build for Feral, I don't think would even include leader of the pack. Like, you would probably still want to have Omen. Like,
yeah, it's not exciting.
Like, so, like, unless they give a really good reason to want to take that bottom talent for Feral in particular, like, I don't know. I don't even see us doing it. Like, Resto, though, like, Swiftman is a great ability, but, like, to me, the premier talent in the Resto tree is Nature's Swiftness, not Swiftmend. Like
Yeah.
Swiftmen is like an oh shit for if somebody took a bunch more damage than you expected them to take. You Swiftmen and they're okay, but then you have to reapply your hot. So like, yeah, an imp Swiftmen not consuming the hot would be pretty cool. But something like for when I'm looking at like Moonkin form is obviously amazing. That's like of the 3, Moonkin form is easily the best get at level 40. But what if they did something like the level 40, like, you know, when you crit while you're
get
in Moonkin
mana.
form,
Yeah,
your
baby.
party gets mana back.
Yeah, absolutely. That was literally
Like,
what I
that'd
was
be sick.
thinking as you said it. So
Or
like
some hit percentage.
I like Blizzard. By the way, I'm copywriting this, so you can't use anything that I'm about to say. But you know, like when we get to the 40 bracket, you add, let's say they added cape and shoulder runes. Yeah, so they added like 2 items per phase or whatever. So you got cape and shoulder runes. So cape would be like a talent affecting rune in some way. So it could be imp moon form, imp moonkin form, imp leader of the pack, imp swiftmend. Then throw a couple of others in, so you know, have to think about your choice a little bit. So it's not just this is what you have to use. But then if they done the other one was quality of life. So it was like rebirth no longer requires a reagent. A gift Mark of the Wild becomes Gift of the Wild, and it's party wide. No, not raid wide. You know, so you still need to do, if it was a 40-man raid, you still need to buff all groups. You know, them sort of quality of life things. Fuck off, go. Or I don't know, a glyph of a rune of blessings, where paladins' blessings now become 10 minutes. You know, poisons, glyph of rune of poisons for rogues, where they no longer have 40 charges, and it's just instead the time. You know, so you could almost have like a talent-related rune set for your cloak, and then a more quality of life rune set for your shoulder. What I'm scared of is they just start throwing abilities in. You know, Ret Paladins are going to get fucking Inquisition. They're going to get, I don't know, Hammer of Wrath. You know, and it's just like every single rune is just going to give you something else that you need to press. Like, I'm hoping they've thought about that and gone, actually, how can we improve on the stuff that's already in the game?
Yeah, instead of adding more. Yeah, making the vanilla stuff improved instead of adding stuff from other. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think it'd be cool to be like when we're talking about like what types of things would we want to be improved, like what things. So like think about like the pain points of each spec. If we're talking druids specifically, the pain point for Boomy obviously is mana and hit. Like it's really hard to come by hit gear, and like the hit gear is so contested, especially because like warlocks don't get any help with hit either from their talents. So a lot of the pieces that, you know, the 2% hit, like Nell's Tear, for example, like that's such a hotly contested item because of the hit, and hit is so hard to come by. So like, what if it was something like, you know, one of the runes, it's like while you are in Moonkin form, your Fairy Fire ability increases the target's chance to be hit by spells by 3%, or just chance to be hit by everything by 3%, like something like that, just to help everybody with hit. But specifically casters would be nice. Like, you know, that alters an existing ability that you were probably going to put up anyway, and just makes it better for everybody. You know, like the mana return for Imp Moonkin would be great. You know, whenever you crit in Moonkin form, everybody gets mana back, including yourself, or maybe you get even more mana back, like that sort of thing. Like stuff like that would be nice.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Yeah, more like synergy stuff.
We've got one more pain point too as balance is our AoE. We've got Hurricane on a 1-minute cooldown. And I saw somewhere, I've been trying to look back up where it was, but there was something about Gale Winds, which isn't in the game until Wrath for Boomies, and it's just increasing Hurricane's damage. But yeah, like we need something for our AoE, and I'd be fine if it was like a Cloak Rune at level 40.
Yeah, I've got it here for you, go. Yeah, I've got it here for you.
Okay.
Gale Winds increases the damage done by a hurricane by 100%, and it no longer has a cooldown, and its mana cost is reduced by 20%.
Yeah, and then there was something else, I think, on that same page somewhere that said it was like a new ability. It sounded kind of like Hurricane, but it wasn't.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, like I don't know how that could come into play at level 42, but yeah, like AoE at 40, please, any sort of rune, I don't care, shoulder, cloak.
I just remember like unless you had some spell damage, I remember more specifically in TBC, like in Hyjal and stuff, I was Boomy for a hot minute in Hyjal, and we would cycle, like druids would cycle, even when I was tanking, if I wasn't the active tank on a particular wave, like I would use Hurricane not for the damage, but just for the attack speed debuff that it puts on everything in its area of effect.
Yeah.
So like that sort of utility that's combined with the spell makes it even better. Like now I'm thinking about stuff like if you have Gale, you know, Rune of Gale Winds or whatever, removes the cooldown, reduces the mana cost, you can actually like use it a bunch. That incentivizes big pulls. Because you know you have a tank pull a bunch of stuff and then you hurricane the pack and it's attacking slower, everything is attacking slower, so the tank's taking less damage, and like it sounds great. Like something like that would be awesome because it would affect more than just, it would add more utility to Moonkins, to having a Moonkin in the raid, because the Hurricane would actually be doing damage and you're applying that debuff. It just makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, you know, talking about utility, and I know I talk a lot about power shifting, but, you know, my bugbear with it is, you know, is the fact that you're stuck with this. You know, you're stuck with Wolf's Head Helm, which don't feel good. You know, when you're at level 40, you're getting your best head literally even into the next expansion and all the way up till arguably Illidan. You know, like, it's not great. So, like, when we're talking about utility runes that could possibly be added in the future, what if they built on this, on the effect? So there was a rune. So when shapeshifting into cat, yeah, you're going to get 20 energy. Great, that's what we want. When shapeshifting into bear, you get 5 rage. Cool. When shapeshifting into Moonkin form, you gain 5% max mana or something like that. You know, so as a druid, as a boomy, when you're forced to come out of boomy form to maybe heal someone or to combat res or, hang on, yeah, the combat res, innovate, yeah, all of that. Then when you go back into boomy, you actually then gain some mana, but not enough where you would then start shifting backwards and forwards. Yeah, do you know what I mean? But
just like enough to break even.
Yeah, enough to be like, oh, right, well, it don't feel so bad going out of boomy to dispel or decurse or yeah, whatever. You know, where they could actually make it quite an impactful ability for every spec, whether you're so as resto. I don't know, like that would take some thought, because as resto, you know, you're just going to be in normal form all the time. Maybe when you go into bear or something, if for some reason when you come back out, you've got like less damage taken. You know, so you could almost use it as a bit of a personal cooldown as a healer. Like I don't know, you know, just shooting shit, but.
Yeah, what was nice about the Gamma dungeons was when they made beta, I think it was, and if you like moonfired one of the mirror images, then I would at least get a haste buff. So something kind of like that, but for the I see what you're saying. Yeah, like it'd be nice to have a buff,
some sort of kickback.
Yeah, because that felt really good when they put that in. It felt like shit before, and then they added that, and I was like, okay, yeah, I don't mind as much moonfiring these ads.
Yeah, and now we're talking utility, aren't we? Sorry, Table, but you know, we're talking like, it's not like, oh, you've got a new ability, like let's keep throwing abilities at them. It's like it's something that already is in the game. Yes, you need to use Wolf's Head Helm as a feral to benefit from it, but actually all specs could potentially use this. The same as what they've done for Shamanistic Rage. You know, where yes, that's ordinarily just for enhancement shaman. That's what they use. But as a resto shaman, not only can you get mana back, but when you use it, you're restoring mana now to your party. You know, you could almost make Wolf's Head Helm a little bit of a utility ability for everybody, but as a rune.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest things about vanilla in general is the class fantasy as opposed to the spec fantasy. And Wolf's Head Helm is a good example of an item that was specific to feral, really, because it doesn't have any sort of benefit for healing or for spell damage at all. It's literally just a feral item, which, like, you know, it makes sense that there's going to be items that are geared more towards one particular thing. But if Wolf's Head Helm is specifically a druid item, but it only affects feral, it'd be cooler if it affected everything. You know, like play into the class fantasy rather than the spec fantasy. An item like that, it would make sense, because like look at the passive stat on it. The passive stat is spirit. Ferals don't give a shit about spirit. You know, like later on it got changed to agility or whatever. But like in vanilla, the vanilla version of Wolf's Head is a spirit passive. Ferals don't care about spirit. Like, sure, it affects mana regen, but like you're power, like this helm is for power shifting. You're power shifting so frequently that the 5-second rule never even kicks in, so you don't get the benefit from your spirit regen anyway. Like, what's the point of having spirit on it? Like,
yeah.
And it's just an example of like Blizzard not really knowing actually what they were doing at the time, but like, they know better now. Why not make it better for everybody instead of just for feral? Also, if they're going to keep it a feral only thing, it doesn't have to be, it's the effect that we care about, not the helmet. So like, just take the effect, put it somewhere else, and then we can wear a real helm. You know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
and that's my point. So it's like I'm not saying what they should do at level 40 is add this ability as a rune. Like, no, I think, Wolf's Head Helm needs to feel really special as well. And I know that sounds a bit cringe, but when you create it at level 40, you want it to be like, man, I've got Wolf's Head Helm, let's go. As a feral, like, that's going to feel great. I'm saying maybe the level 60 bracket. So when we actually get to level 60, phase 4, then one of the level 60 runes is this, but improved to affect other specs. So actually, on your way to 60, Wolf's Head Helm, absolutely, you want to get it crafted. You're going to want to use it. It's going to be amazing. It's going to feel great. But then you can ditch it at 60 and actually get a proper head. That's the route that I personally would go down.
Yeah, or even like, because it's kind of like a purify cleanse sort of situation, right? Where like you use Wolf's Head until you don't need it anymore because you have something better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think one thing to note too is like they in the Wowhead interview with the devs about Season Discovery, one of the questions that was asked was, are there going to be new tier sets added for the newly available specs like mage healer, shaman tank, stuff like that? And they said, yeah, that's on the table to add new tier sets for those specs. Is that all?
I see where you're going.
Is that all they'll do? Is that the only thing they're going to add? Or are they going to add tier sets for specs that previously didn't get tier sets? Like, for example, Warrior DPS never had tier sets. They always wore a clown suit because all of the tier set bonuses for the Warrior tier were all geared towards tanking. Most of the Paladin ones were geared towards healing. Most of the Druid ones are geared towards healing, etc., etc. Will Feral get a tier set?
So you could have like two set Cenarian, which gives you the Wolf's Head Helm, ability.
Even beyond that, like if they decide to add tier sets for the specs that didn't get bonuses previously, they would have to get rid of Wolf's Head in some way so that Ferals could activate an 8-set bonus. Because if they leave Wolf's Head how it is, what would be the point of adding a feral tier set with feral tier set bonuses if Wolf's Head stays the way it is? Because we will never activate the 8 set because we're wearing Wolf's Head.
Yep.
So they would have to get rid of Wolf's Head if they wanted to add a feral tier set bonus so we could get the 8 set. You know what I mean? Like,
so they've definitely already started on Paladin and Warrior. So like 100%, that's already been data mined that there's a new Judgment chest guard. And a new chest guard of Might. So they're already looking at that, which, obviously Judgment chest guard, it's, strength, stamina, intellect. Yeah, I'm guessing this is for prop paladins, or it could be rep, like who knows, either way. And chest guard of Might, strength, stamina, this could be more for, the DPS Might set. So they're already looking at it. But they're already looking at it for classes that existed in the game with the spec that they do already. Do you know what I mean? Because like essentially a prop paladin could tank in vanilla very badly, but they had a protection tree. And warriors, we know, very good. Whatever they do. So on the basis that it's actually paladin and warrior tier sets that we're seeing getting data mined, that would tell me that I don't think anything's off the table. I really do think we could see feral set bonuses. We could see balance set bonuses.
And of course, all speculation at this point. It would be great. Like, I would love to see what they would do for like Boomkin set bonuses. They could potentially address some of the mana issues with set bonuses instead of runes. A lot of the pain points of a lot of these specs, like Shadow Priest mana, they're hurting on that front as well. If there was a Shadow Priest set bonus for tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, etc., maybe they get some mana help there instead of having to do it through runes. So like, they don't need to, all of the, issues or problems that people have with stuff in vanilla doesn't necessarily have to all be solved by runes. It could just be these new set bonuses as well. And it would still feel like vanilla because you're still activating set bonuses and stuff. And if they're going to do that, it would also make sense because the vanilla system for tier sucks because you have to get the specific piece to drop. So if they are again, this is like, you know, another branch on this speculation tree. If they're going to add tier sets for specs that didn't previously have tier sets, they're going to have to go to some sort of token system, because if you're essentially tripling, you know, doubling or tripling the amount of pieces of tier gear, it would make zero sense to still need to get the individual piece to drop.
That's such a fucking good point. Honestly, you come out with some bangers. Like, that is such a good point. Like, really good.
If they make it set bonuses and we're getting more than one tier, then they just keep the 2-piece would be the same for tier 1 as it is for tier 2, or like if they gave you Wolf's Head for your tier 1-2 set,
you're only ever going to use tier 1-2 set, and all the way through the game.
When tier 2 comes out, yeah. And the same thing. I've seen a lot of people saying, like, you know, make the Wolf's Head effect your idol or your relic. Same thing. Like, if you'd be locked into one idol, but we only really had one idol back in Classic, anyways. So that one I can kind of see, but it'd be cool to have.
TBC, you got the Starfire idol from, like, what was that, like Shattered Halls or whatever, and you use that the whole time.
Well, same as a prop paladin. As a prop paladin, you went in Cephek halls and got the Consecrate Libram, and then
and that was the only one you ever used.
You're set, so, man.
Yeah. But now it feels good now, though, to get new ones.
No, I agree. I agree with you, Go. I think you're 100% right.
So for me, I'm like, I don't know if
that's why it should be a rune.
Options is the best option. Yeah, if it's a rune, yeah.
I think a rune is why it makes sense.
That rune.
Yeah, but there might be fights where, like you say that, but there might be fights where actually, you know, if you have got the Tiger's Fury where it's giving energy back, you know, you've not got 100% uptime on the boss. I don't know. There could be a world where you're not actually power shifting on certain bosses, and you could take something else. I don't know, or they do it where it is like, this is a fucking big if. But if they done it where it was quite balanced, then there was the power shifting rune, but then on the same armor piece there was something, I don't know, that I don't want to say the fairy fire, you know, fairy fire glyph from Wrath, but let's use that as an example. You know, there was a way to force clear casting procs. You know, and now it's like, well, do I want to play like the Wrath style of Feral, where I'm forcing clear casting procs every 6 seconds or whatever, or do I want to, you know, do the power shifting? So you actually had the option, and I'm really scared what Tay was about to say, but you know,
power shift.
Yeah, no, but what do you think if there was like a rune where you could power shift, or you could all have the more Wrath style Feral, and there might be other things thrown in on the same armor piece, you know?
I don't want them to do that because it would be too hard to balance to make it do the same amount of damage. Because, like, if in a perfect world, if they could make them both do the exact same amount of damage, and literally the only difference between the two is your preferred playstyle, cool, do it. I'll power shift. I'm sure some people would.
It's hilarious that you think any of this shit is going to be balanced anyway.
No, it's not. Like, we have to be realistic, and they have to be realistic too. It's too hard to balance to make it do the same amount of damage, so they would have to choose one or the other. And I would really hope that they would just keep it as power shifting, because that's what it was in vanilla. Vanilla Feral is defined by power shifting, and that's what we would all want to do. The whole point of playing Vanilla Feral is to power shift.
I'm so, down for power shifting. Honestly, I am down for power shifting 100%. It's more going along the lines of what Go initially said, you know, where it's like, well, if it's a tier, let's say it's you know, it's Cenarian's, let's say 8 set, you know, if you're going to have to use your 8 set to power shift, you'll be using your 8 set still in Nax. You know, if it's an idol, you're going to be using that idol from literally phase 1 of level 60, phase 1, which is going to be phase 4 or whatever. But, you know, you're going to be using that now for the rest of the game. At least if it was a rune where there was a tough decision to make, not everyone's going to use it. You know, that's sort of more. I might have put that across the wrong way, but that was more sort of my point.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, like, choice is fun. In some ways, it's not fun when you don't feel like your choice matters. So if they can find a way to make it feel like the choice matters, then sure, why not? You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it was like Tiger's Fury, there was a rune where it's for power shifting. So basically, the rune, let's say it's your belt rune, and it gives you the effect of Wolf's Head Helm when you're level 60. So it doesn't take away from the fact Wolf's Head Helm exists and people are going to want to craft it and use it. But then at the other belt rune option is when you use the rune, it removes the bonus damage from Tiger's Fury, but reduces the cooldown to 6 seconds.
I mean, I'd be down for that. We get more damage out of doing that anyway than we would out of the damage bonus.
I mean, yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, that was just, again, just off the top of my head. You can see me actually thinking. I've not thought about that before, but that, you know, then you're like, shit, like, that's weird. You know,
if the Wolf's Head effect was as a rune too, then I'd have some cases where I'd want to use it as a balance druid. Like, if I had that rune, then I shapeshift into cat form, I get my 20 energy, and then I can feral charge. I don't have to have points in Furor. So, like,
or
I would...
Skull Bash charge, you mean?
Skull Bash, yeah. Like, that'd be sweet. As long as that rune didn't affect another balance druid thing that would also help me in PvP, then it'd be cool to have that option.
That'd be like more of the class fantasy thing, right? Like if it was a rune, like if they took Wolf's Head, the effect, and made it a rune and added something in that would benefit Boomkin and maybe even Resto as well, then it would be a class-wide thing. In the same way that Fury the Stormrage has DPS applications and it has healing applications, if they could do something like that with like Wolf's Head and make it a class-wide thing instead of just feral only, that would be pretty cool too. Because like, you know, like you're saying, Go, if there's situations where you would maybe want to use the effect, you know, PvP specifically, maybe even for movement heavy fights in some raids, you might even want to swap in that rune for that specific fight or something like that.
I knew this was going to be a fucking nightmare putting us three together. Like, honestly, I just knew. I knew there was no way we would stay on topic and talk about what's actually happening. I knew this is what it would spiral into. But, like, I genuinely hope that some of this information... Like, I know Agron, like, love him. I know he watches some of the videos. I don't know if he watches the podcasts. Like, maybe not. I know he consumes a lot of content, which is amazing for us. And I don't mean us as in us who are streaming this right now. I mean us as a community. Because if you've got a dev like that with the voice that he's got and, you know, the sway that he's got, like, that's fantastic. That's what we want. He's actually listening, and then he'll be like, I watched this video by Table. I watched this video by Go. Like, you know, they said this about druids. Do you think we should do something with it? You know, if you've got someone like that actually in the player's corner, like, that is amazing. But I don't know if he's watching this, but I do hope if he does, the thing he takes away is what we don't need is more abilities constantly being thrown at us every level bracket. Like, let's use some passive
ways to augment existing stuff.
Absolutely. Let's build on the class fantasy. Let's augment. That was a great word. On some of the stuff that we've already got, and not feel like every 10 levels from 40, 50, 60, all we're getting is just another 3 or 4 buttons to press. Because that's not even interesting, is it, really? But I tell you what, I've been struggling between Mage and Paladin, and obviously I'm going to have a Druid, multiple Druids. But if the Paladin gets two set tier 10 as a rune or a set bonus, I will be Paladin main. Because that tier set bonus still makes me smile every time it procs.
To spin to win. It's because of that weak aura.
Yeah, it's the weak aura as well. Yeah, the weak aura does help, but it just makes me happy every time it procs. So putting it out there, Druids.
See, that's a great example of stuff that they should aim to do, like an effect or a set bonus or whatever that is so fun and unique and cool that every time you get it you smile. Like, they should be aiming for that across the board for every class. You know what I mean? Like, if a 2 set bonus or whatever, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a 2 set, but something like that, if that is that much fun to play with, then like every class should get something like that. That'd be really cool.
Well, like, imagine a feral druid. One off the top of my head, Go. Sorry, because then I'm going to go for a piss, so I'll stop talking anyway. Or will I? Like, as a feral, imagine not 40% like the bloody Divine Storm 2 set tier 10 is, but imagine it was like 5%, a set bonus where you've got a 5% chance that your next finishing move consumes no combo points and acts as if it was cast with 5 combo points. So just occasionally during a fight, you're going to get a free 5-point combo, Ferocious Bite. Or you can stick a big Savage Roar up, full duration Savage Roar. Something like that where it's not guaranteed, it's pure RNG, but like when it goes off, you'd be like, oh my god, let's go.
I mean, I don't really have that many great tier sets as Boomy. I always feel like I'm a downer, man. Every
You don't
time
deserve 'em.
get to me, I'm like, I mean, well, we've got this, but one of our better ones though was Insect Swarm being able to proc and instant cast Starfire. That was probably one of the funner set bonuses of Wrath.
That's pretty cool. I mean, Starfire is a fun ability anyway. It's a freaking orbital laser, bro. That's a fun spell to cast. It's like one of the coolest effects of any spell in the game is Starfire. Anything that makes Starfire cooler is instantly at the top of the coolest in my book.
Yeah, so if we got a rune or something that was like it gives your Moonfire or your Insect Swarm a chance to make Starfire instant cast, then that's also going to like double up with Sunfire and Star Surge, then we'd be dotting our asses off getting free Starfire procs, like limiting how much we're casting, because standing there and casting a 3-second Starfire is only so fun.
Right. Bro, how sick would it be if there was a set bonus or something that was like when the initial damage of Moonfire crits, every tick of Moonfire is just a Starfall?
Hey, I'll take it.
That'd be sick as hell.
Because Starfall is also another, it's not a bonus, but it's the one spell that every time I get to hit it every minute, I'm smiling the whole time. Like, I know I'm pumping. I'm looking at the damage meter like, am I actually keeping up with the feral swiping? Am I keeping up with the hunters trapping? Like, am I keeping up with the rets?
Some of the funnest shit that we ever did in raids was like the shootout between you and I on the Vezix trash. Like, that was always the funnest thing. Like, blowing berserk, and she's like, all right, let's see if I can out damage Go this time.
The unfortunate thing now, Table, is there's no competition. It's not even close anymore.
I would honestly, hear me out, if Feral gets nerfed in Wrath, they should give that 5% to Boomkin.
It's too late. It's too late. There'll be no nerfs. There'll be no adjustants now.
Yeah, they ain't doing shit. They haven't fixed Languish. They're not even looking at Wrath anymore.
No. Wrath, like, I don't want to be a doomer, but Wrath's over, man. Like, and I don't mean because of Season of Discovery. I mean, we know the buffs come in to ICC. We know the only other thing that no one's even looking forward to is Ruby Sanctum. Wrath's on borrowed time. Exactly. It's like
honestly,
raid log.
If them being on autopilot makes them make sod better, cool. That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, we'll take that.
All right, so we've got leg runes. We've done chest and hands.
Have we not actually done legs yet? Are you joking?
Life Bloom, Savage Roar, Skull Bash, Star Surge.
Yeah, we did finish. We've done hands. We've finished. No, we haven't spoken about Wild Strikes. What are you talking about?
Oh, we didn't even finish chest. Sorry. So we've got.
That's even worse.
that is worse, actually. I don't know how I feel about that at the moment.
Oh my god,
because that's a big one. That's
the last relevant thing we said about chest was that it was going to make crits matter, and then I launched into my diatribe about warrior tanking. Yikes, dude!
I had thought multiple times, like, do I try to get this back on track yet? And I was just like, just let it go. Let it go.
Well, the thing is, we was enjoying ourselves, and like, there were some good things that come from that.
True.
So Wild Strikes
was informative and entertaining for the devs and for the viewers.
I highly doubt it.
Yeah, Wild Strikes.
The only people that were entertained by what we just spoke about was us.
Yeah, probably. That's fine.
Wild Strikes, I mean, Table, take it away, man. This will be a quick one at least.
It's pretty self-explanatory. It's Windfury, but it's not Windfury. It's similar to Windfury, but it's not actually Windfury. Actual Windfury, I don't know if you want to like pull up actual Windfury or anything like that, but like Windfury Totem, not available to Shamans at 25. They don't get it till 32. But Windfury Totem imbues your weapons with Windfury. And that's what provides the effect. You get the extra hit and whatever. It has extra attack power, whatever. But the fact that it's a weapon enhancement means that it's only for just melee. Literally only melee will benefit from Windfury Totem, but Wild Strikes gives you a buff. We saw it on the actual, like, I don't want to call it PTR, at BlizzCon when they had ferals in the group with Wild Strikes. Each member of the party had a buff on them, similar to the way that you would have a totem buff on you otherwise. And it just gives each melee hit a 20% chance of granting the attacker an extra attack with 20% additional attack power. So it's similar to Windfury, that you have a chance to get an extra attack that has boosted attack power. But the way that Wild Strikes is worded implies that rogues will still be able to use a main hand poison, because if it's a buff on you instead of a buff on your weapon, then it's not taking up that enhancement slot on your weapon. So warriors can use sharpening stones, rogues can use poisons, etc., because it's a buff on your character instead of on your weapon. And this is also why druids themselves are able to benefit from Wild Strikes, because traditionally in the vanilla version of the game, druids don't benefit from Windfury because imbuements on your weapon don't count. You can't proc those in cat or bear form, whereas Wild Strikes you can. So this brings up the question of are they going to change Windfury to work the way that Wild Strikes does, or are they keeping things the way that they are? In which case, it'll be interesting to see how groups get set up in the larger raid sizes, because you might have something, and also if the Wild Strikes extends to pets as well, because you could easily see something like a druid gets grouped with the hunters to buff the hunters and their pets.
And just to point it out as well, so they're already considering. So this will address your question in chat as well, Shock. So it says no effect if the party member is already benefiting from Windfury Totem. So they are kind of sort of considering Windfury Totem the more powerful effect, because if they've got it's not the other way around. So if you've got Windfury and Wild Strikes, it'll be Windfury that's counted on the party. I don't know if that changes anything, but I
mean, Windfury is also a totem, and the totem could get killed. Maybe not in PvE as much. I don't think mobs actually target totems, but
totems have a limited range as well. You drop a totem, if the fight moves away from the totem, you got to drop another totem. Wild Strikes is on the druid.
Yeah, and the totem is a set amount of attack power, isn't it? So it's 122 attack power for rank 1, as an example. Whereas
level 32.
Yeah, and level 32. Whereas Wild Strikes is just 20% extra attack power. So
so depending on the attack power you have, Windfury might be more powerful for you specifically, but if you have enough attack power that 20% of that is higher than what Windfury would give you, then Wild Strikes is better.
Yeah, 100%. What is max rank? Just out of interest, max rank Windfury Totem. I apparently can't spell.
It's rank 3.
Windfury, rank 3.
Extra 315 attack power.
So 315. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of attack power. So yeah, Windfury Totem probably is still, even at level 60 in full BIS, going to be better. I mean, now we're talking, you've got to have, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. You've got to have over 1.5k attack power. What sort of attack power are we looking at level 60?
Yeah, not that much.
I mean, but if Shaman puts Windfury down, they can't put Tranquil Air Totem down, which is the threat reduction totem. I don't know what other air totems there are. Grace of Air Totem?
Wind Wall.
Wind Wall, yeah, ranged attacks. But it's you say that, but are we gonna see, I don't know, let's say a mage or a warlock that can bring the hand of salve type thing?
Yeah, because the Grace of Air increases agility of party members within 20 yards by 67. That's a rank 2 one.
But aren't paladins getting some rune where they do Horn of whatever it's called,
Horn of Lord,
it basically gives Strength of Earth plus Grace of Air at the same time?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So if paladins are getting that, that's 2 totems. I don't know. It raises more questions than gives answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this has been a tough one to chew on, because it's Wild Strikes can't be better than Windfury. If it's a new ability, it shouldn't be better than Windfury. A newly added thing shouldn't be better than shouldn't replace something a different class has. That's not, I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's good design. So Wild Strike shouldn't be better than Windfury.
Yeah, it's just an option.
Right. So like it shouldn't be a thing like say the max raid size ends up being 40 at level 60. We don't know whether or not like it's looking like it might be 20 instead. But let's just for the sake of argument say that it's a 40-man raid at level 60. Say you've got 4 or 5 physical groups. Are you going to bring 4 or 5 feral druids? For Alliance, you have to because there's no shamans. But for Horde, you might not. You could bring like 2 enhanced, 3 feral. You know what I mean? Like it changes things up just a little bit. Or like you might even still bring 5 anyway, and then have a shaman in those groups benefiting from wild strikes, and then the shaman drops a different air totem. Shaman drops agility instead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. But like you said, you summed it up literally with the first sentence. It gives us more questions than answers. Because until we know, it's like it sucks a little bit that I know you're going to have feral druids that are going to bring wild strikes on both Horde and Alliance, but on the basis that it was like really given as a way to have windfury on the Alliance, that was really the primary purpose of it. Should Shaman not actually just get access to windfury 7 levels earlier?
Right.
It could at least be brought in line with wild strikes.
Yeah, either way, like if we're talking just Alliance anyway, like I feel like that would be like a pretty safe way to like kind of look at things, like look at it from the Alliance standpoint. Wild strikes, yes, you're going to need a feral druid for every physical group, for every melee group anyway, because it still says each melee hit has a 20% chance, so it's still only going to be for melee. So like hunters aren't going to, maybe they're pets. I don't know. I don't know if the buff is going to be on pets as well, or if it's only going to be on players. But the way that it reads is melee hits only, so it's a feral in every melee group as Alliance to get wild strikes.
So apparently you have 6.7k attack power in Bis and Axe gear, which would actually make wild strikes considerably stronger than Windfury Totem.
676 attack power?
That seems like a lot. Oh, 676. I was going to say, that seems like a lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
676 seems way too low.
Oh, hang on. 1226 as a warrior. All right, okay, so it's not miles off. It's not miles off. Yeah, when you said, I read that as 6k, and I'm like, hang on.
I had to triple read it too, yeah. I was
that's a lot.
That's like Wrath levels. That's like early Wrath levels.
But yeah, 1226 is a warrior Bis Nax. So, yeah, Windfury will always be better than Wild Strikes. In a way. It's better. It needs, like you say, the totem needs to be dropped though, and it needs to be kept down. Whereas Wild Strikes is passive, there's no effort required. So there's still a trade-off.
And if they screw their power shift, then it's a GCD, the buff isn't up.
If you don't use the right macro, then like you go to power shift and you don't have enough mana to go back into cat form, and you're stuck in human form, and everybody loses everything.
Hang on, macro? What, you don't just right-click the cat form icon and then press cat form again?
I type /cast cat form space bracket shapeshift close bracket. Enter. Every time.
That's why you do so much damage. I see. But all right, cool. So Wild Strikes, let's face it, looking at that, if you're a feral DPS, you're using nothing else but Wild Strikes anyway, so...
Yeah, and then the question really becomes, like, if you look at it from the feral tank standpoint, it's basically survival of the fittest versus Wild Strikes. If you're the only feral on the raid, I think I said this earlier, but like, if you're the only feral in the group, you have to run Wild Strikes. And if you're tanking, if the bosses are hitting hard enough where you need the crit suppression from survival of the fittest...
You're going to get replaced.
You just shouldn't be tanking, because like the whole point of bringing a feral is Wild Strikes. So if you need crit suppression, then you can't tank unless you have a second feral in the group with you. And it just, in a 10-man, it just doesn't make sense to bring 2 ferals when you could bring a different tank and still have a feral DPS. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Spread the gear around, spread the everything around. Like it's 10-man feral tanking doesn't make sense.
Right, bear with me. Scottejaye speaking now. So, Scottejaye in the house. Boom. Why not fight for Rafira? Like, there's not really a lot that little old me, saying is going to make much of a difference, is it? I've said in multiple videos that it is an absolute travesty to not get Wrath era servers. Like, there's so many people that would continue to enjoy Wrath for many, many years, and I raid with one of them every week. He literally has already spent the last 10 years playing Wrath, so he wants to spend another 10 years playing Wrath. But if they don't deem it a worthwhile server to, cover the costs of, there's nothing I can say that's going to change that, unfortunately. And this is coming from someone who would like a Wrath era server. But I genuinely, when I'm bored and there's not a lot going on in Kata, and let's say there's not a lot going on in Season of Discovery, I'd happily go and do a quick ICC or a quick Alduar or something like that, just for fun. So
I'm talking about playing Wrath for another 10 years. That's probably how long it'll take me to get a DBW.
Yeah. Well, the priests have got to get it next.
Yeah, it's true. All the hunters.
But yeah, I just thought I'd just address that question. Right, we've got a very easy 4 runes, and then we can get the fuck out of here, because this 1 hour podcast is it's dragging on a little bit, to be fair.
Legs is straightforward, man. Like, legs is probably the most straightforward slot. There's it's just 1 for each.
Yeah, so life bloom for resto. Yeah, if you're resto, you're going to use life bloom.
Well, do they need life bloom? Could they use Star Surge?
They could. I mean, if you're in a position where you don't need the extra healing, and what is needed from that raid slot is a little extra damage, then yeah, I could see Star Surge being worth it.
If you can afford it, mana wise, yeah, maybe at late game.
3%. It's 3% mana. 3%.
Honestly,
mana.
Even if you're not going to cast life bloom, even if you're just blanketing the raid. Even if you're just blanking the raid and rejuves, it's still worth it to take the life bloom rune anyway, because it reduces the GCD of rejuve by half a second. So you have a 1 second GCD for rejuve for more blanketing.
Yeah,
even if you're not going
absolutely.
to actually cast life bloom, it's still worth it to take it just for more rejuves.
Yep, 100%. It literally gets you Wrath haste capped just by taking a rune. If you're resto, you're taking life bloom. No, no doubt. Savage Roar. This is an interesting one for you, Table. As Feral, what would you take?
It's
Savage Roar?
Exactly. It's just Wrath, Savage Roar. It's literally copy paste Wrath, Savage Roar down to the duration. 1 second Savage Roar in Wrath is 14 seconds all the way up, and it's 5 second difference. Every extra combo point. It's the exact same thing. The difference mainly is in Wrath we have Glyph of Savage Roar that increases the damage by a further 3%. We're not probably, too early to say really, but in this specific case, this rune is only 30%, not 33%. So it's still 25 energy. When you actually click the thing and go to the actual page for it, it is 25 energy, the same way that it is in Wrath. And yeah, it's great. What's not to like?
Well, I was liking it, and I was thinking as Feral, I would take it 100% of the time, until you mentioned the point that it's only 30% and not 33%. So as Feral, I'm now going to take Life Bloom instead. I'm out. I don't like Savage Roar anymore. What a shit rune.
Savage Roar nerf.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, but completely, there's just nothing to add. If you're... there's only one circumstance you might not take this as Feral DPS, and that was for some reason your raid leader was a complete troll and was like, we need you interrupting. Can you take Skull Bash, please? Which I'm sure will happen to someone. I don't know who, but it will happen to someone at some point. No doubt. I'm going to be saying to Ernest on every boss.
Hey, Zach, can you take Skull Bash?
Yeah, no, Ernest. Ernest will be like, right, ready to pump. Here comes my 100 pass in BFD. He'll be like, mate, we need you interrupting this raid. We haven't got anyone else to do it. We've stacked arcane mages. Oh, then again, they could.
The raid's got bigger problems, so you need a Feral to interrupt.
Yeah, that is very true. But yeah, Savage Roar.
If I have to interrupt, I would rather just go Bear and Feral charge.
Well, yeah. Exactly. There's options.
I feel it's less of it. It would be less of a DPS loss to burn the GC to go to Bear form, get out of range, get out of melee range, so you can Feral charge, and then go back. It would be less of a DPS loss to do that. Basically, burn 4 GCDs. So,
just 2 things. Rene, do I think they'll do a Season of Discovery for TBC and Wrath? I would say categorically no. I actually. So, if there was a developer interview going on next week, if there was, one of the questions would be, would you ever consider Season of Discovery to drop the season word in the title and end up as Progressive Realms? You know, like if I was to ask them that, like that is what that's how I'd word it. You know, so actually, when they realise how well it's doing halfway through, they're like, do you know what? It started as a seasonal server, but it's going to end up as a progressive server. But I don't think it would work. You know, as in...
Yeah, it'd be weird once you got to Wrath, once you got to Kata.
Yeah, once you get to the level where you would get some of these abilities that are newly added.
And then what are you going to get in their place? I mean, maybe the only thing that I personally would really love to see was it was progressive in a sense, where we did get TBC content, but the TBC content that's relevant to old kingdoms, like in general, you know, Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. So, you know, potentially we could get Hyjal, we could get Karazhan, you know, we could get Black Morass, Old
Caverns
Hills,
of Time.
Redfoot Hills, yeah, Caverns of Time in general. Like that, I would take. Even then, if like in that same patch we got Oldham as a leveling zone with Halls of Origination is one of the dungeons. You know, like, so take the content from future expansions, bring them forward and tune them to level 60, and then add some runes, add some new runes that you can get from these places. Like that's what I'd love to see.
Spells too.
Yeah, new ranks.
Like how AQ had the spell books, like the books with new ranks of spells.
Absolutely great.
Pulling the new professions would come in too with that. Yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah, and then
the new classes, yeah.
But that would be insane. And then secondly, Hammer Dance, yo. And the reason, like, out of all the people that have joined and said, yo, I'm specifically calling you out, is because one of your videos about Season of Discovery popped up on my feed, and it was fucking dog shit. No, I'm joking. I watched it, and I looked at you and was like...
I got really happy for a second.
Wait, no. So I watched it, and I was like...
It's like conflict.
I know this guy. Like, literally, while I was watching you, I was like, I know this guy, and couldn't work out why. So then I started really looking into it, and I watched one of your videos on your other channel about streaming. He does he does great WoW videos, by the way. But he does great, like, streaming tips and tutorials and shit like that. And I'd watched one of your videos, and I'm fair... Don't quote me on this, just in case I'm wrong, because I can't remember off the top of my head. I drink a lot, firstly, so I forget a lot of things. But I'm fairly sure it was like how to set notifications up and shit like that on Twitch using bot tricks. I feel like that's what it was. So I had to go back and try and work out where I knew you from, and I'd watched one of your videos when I first started streaming on Kick on your other streaming channel. Man, I love you. Like, amazing. So yeah, I was only giving you shit at the start just because that's what I do to everyone now. Yeah, it was honestly, I was literally watching him talk about Season of Discovery, and I was like, I fucking know this guy. Like, and I was getting more and more agitated while I was watching it. Like, this is not the first time I've seen him. Yeah, so what's going on, man?
Slapping yourself in the mirror. Why can't you remember?
yeah, that's what it was like. So yeah, 2 amazing channels you've got now, mate. Like, keep it up, absolutely smashing it.
Shadows Hammer Dance.
Yeah, Before I saw Scotty on YouTube, I saw him on a different streaming platform.
OnlyFans.
I know this cock.
Oh my God.
You're such a fucking bellend.
All right, so we've got Skullbash.
Anyway, Skullbash, yeah.
So, like, if you're talking purely, like, it basically seems on the surface, it looks like it's a rune for each spec, essentially. Like, Skullbash, like, if you're full-time tanking as a feral, you're not going to be taking Savage Roar. If you're full-time tanking, you're going to take Skullbash. If you're part-time tanking, you know, like tanking ads as they spawn, and then when the ads die, you go to DPSing, you're probably still going to take Savage Roar even as a tank, so that you can still DPS when you're not actively tanking. But if you're like a feral main tank, you're probably going to take Skullbash, because it's like the only one that really makes sense to actually take.
Yeah. Easy.
And then, of course, for booming, like Star Surge is a pretty no-brainer. Like, it's low mana cost. It's, what is it, 10-second cooldown, something like that?
Yeah.
So, like, you press it on cooldown, doesn't cost much mana, like, no-brainer.
I mean, is there anywhere where you would consider Skullbash as a boomy, though? Because I know you like having the utility,
60.
you know.
Yeah, just at 60, because too low level, and at 60, I say if I can get either points in Furor or if I get that Wolf's Head Helm benefit from a different type of rune. Whereas as soon as I shift into cat form, I've got energy that I can use the charge. The same thing with bear form. If I need to shift to bear form to Skull Bash instead, I forget how much rage it was. Was it 20 rage? Like, that's a lot of fucking rage. But yeah, like I need something from a different talent tree in order to help me even use Skull Bash. But it'd be
Looks
nice
like
to have
10
an
rage.
interrupt. 10 rage? Yeah. So like,
Either
if
way,
I had
like-
Furor, yeah.
Wolf's Head as it is 5 rage, or Furor, you get 10. So like
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah. So
but like 25 energy, instant cast, 10-second cooldown, just the same as most other interrupts. Like Pummel for Warriors is also 10 rage, 10-second cooldown, or it might be 8-second cooldown. Shield Bash is, I'm pretty sure, 12-second cooldown for Warriors. But also 10 rage. Like Kick from Rogues, 25 energy, 10-second cooldown, like stuff like. So it's in line with other similar interrupts.
I mean, I guess I could, like I said at the top of the show, at some point, I could have a rage pot if because I would only really use this for PvP, I think. So I could shift to bear form, pop a rage potion, and then be able to Skull Bash for an interrupt. But
Right.
then the next time I want to use it, 10 seconds later, they're casting something else. It would feel pretty bad.
But if you was running Skull Bash Go as a boomy, yeah, you'd have Skull Bash and you'd be running Survival of the Fittest, which sort of encourages you when someone gets on top of you, not in a sexual way, because there's no way they're getting on top of that. Like you then go into bear form, so you're taking 20% less damage instead of 10, and you've now got an interrupt to, so you're in bear form. Let's say now you've got, I don't know, bloody a shaman or something wailing on you, and then he goes to cast a heal, and then you've actually got Skull Bash to interrupt him as well, and then get back out, go back into like your normal form, run away, whatever. Like you've got like a lot of options as a boomy, and even going through further than level 25. Because, like we've already established, like Fury of the Stormrage, you're probably not going to use in PvP, so you're going to be using Survival of the Fittest anyway. And then Star Surge, yeah, it's got a cast time, yeah, it does a lot of damage.
Yeah,
don't get me
it should
wrong.
be instant.
But yeah, you could live without
Star
it, couldn't
Search
you?
should be instant. That's another one that's kind of weird and has that niche PvP situation. If it interacts with improved Starfire, and it could stun. Because having that stun in PvP was a blast. So an instant cast Star Surge that can stun, 15% chance to stun for 3 seconds on a 10-second cooldown, pretty useful.
So the thing is, wherever it says most talents, I always worry, and that's how it reads.
Same.
So like a lot of them say from talents, not just from most. On the basis it says most, I would guess Improved Starfire is one of those ones that's not included in most.
Yeah, it's not currently listed there as one of the modified by spells. There's Clear Casting, Moon Fury, Moon Glow, Nature's Reach, Nature's Swiftness, which is already an instant cast, doesn't make sense, and then Vengeance. But yeah, that particular talent's not listed yet. And but Moon Glow isn't listed for Sunfire, which I would imagine it should. So that's another weird one. Like, I'm hoping that these just aren't completely updated yet by what spells they're modified by.
Sunfire's got to fall under Moonglow. Like, yeah, it has to. And you would also think that then Star Surge would also fall under... Oh, you said it fell under Moonglow, didn't you?
Star Surge
does.
is listed,
yeah. That's fine. But yeah, okay, outside of PvP, though, you're going Star Surge, aren't you? Like, PvP, you might occasionally use Skull Bash. Maybe you end up not using Skull Bash because Star Surge absolutely fucking trucks. And then...
I think just having an interrupt for PvP is good, full stop.
Yeah.
Like we were talking earlier about how, like, even if you're, primarily balanced in PvP, you normally would spec into Feral for Feral Charge anyway. So, like, now you don't have to do that, and you can get Skull Bash. So, like, there's niche situations for Feral Charge anyway. Like, if you're peeling, if you want to peel, like, the root from Feral Charge is helpful, and you don't get the root from Skull Bash. It's just a charge. The range of Feral Charge is longer as well. It's up to 25 yards, whereas Skull Bash is up to 13, but there's no minimum range on Skull Bash, but there is a minimum range on Feral Charge. So there's, like, little things here and there that, that there's niche uses for each of them. But so the fact that they share a cooldown, it's more of like a tactical decision which one you want to do. Like, if you're say you're in like Warzone Gulch, you're flag carrying, and you're not in bear form yet. Somebody, a rogue jumps you or whatever. You pop Nature's Grasp, go bear form, the rogue gets rooted, then you feral charge to somebody who's trying to cast something at you. That's like the perfect PvP play. Or you skull bash to them instead, depending on how far away from you they are.
Yeah, sorry, I just looked at Ghost's face and started laughing. I wasn't laughing at you. I genuinely just looked at Ghost's face and started laughing because
it's the mage situation all over again.
No, it's not. I was flicking cards around and then I just had a flashback of him throwing napkins around. Yeah. And that was literally all I saw. I zoned out of everything that was going on for a minute and just saw Go throwing napkins around.
Like flashing in front of your face, like
yeah. That was a fun one.
That was funny.
That was good.
Hammer, what am I maining? First is either Ret Paladin or a regen mage. It's probably 99% regen mage, but obviously I play Paladin as a main on both NA and EU in Wrath. So I'm Ret Paladin main with Shadowmon, weird flex, on NA, and then Holy Paladin with Valonir. I only play classes that can get legendaries. Otherwise, it's just not
Even
fun.
when he's not
not
playing
worth
orange
it.
class, he's still playing orange class.
Yeah. So I kind of want to play Paladin, but I think I can do some weird shit as a regen mage, and I think there's a lot more options for me to do some weird stuff. Like Ret Paladin is just going to be Ret Paladin, right?
I'm kind of with you on that though. Like it's like I was like I'm gonna be maining feral, but like I definitely want to mess around with some of the new stuff. Like melee hunter unironically looks fun as hell. Like a lone wolf melee hunter, like you're basically just a rogue with a mana bar. Like that sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Or it would feel like a Horizon Walker Ranger from 5e D&D. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know any of what you just said.
Oh, I know exactly what he meant.
Somebody will, yeah. Like something like that. Like it's an interesting take because like people wanted melee hunter to be a thing for ages, and then in retail, melee hunter is a thing. So like to see it in vanilla would be interesting. I don't know how good it'll be compared to other melee specs or to other hunter specs, but like it just sounds cool. It sounds cool. It sounds interesting. It sounds fun. I want to give it a try just because it's new. And like a similar thing with like the mage healer thing, which I'm sure that's probably one of the reasons why you're interested in it because it's new.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, how is it going to work? Like, is there a way for me to make this busted as hell? And the answer is probably yes.
And the thing is, so like for anyone who watches me stream on Kick, and then the main reason I'm on Kick, like, well, one of the reasons I'm on Kick is because I do play a lot of private servers, so it's safer on Kick. But like if you've watched me playing Kata, you'd have seen the amount of raids that I heal as a disc priest because I love the atonement playstyle. A mage looks like it's sort of taking some of the atonement playstyle, but then making it really, really challenging. Because atonement is you spam smite. Literally, there's not really a lot else to it.
It's the same thing, but it's just from the opposite side. Like atonement is you're a healer DPSing, but mage healer is you're a DPSer who is healing.
Yeah, and it's just gonna be fun. Like I'm really looking forward to it, and that's why I am gravitating. Sorry, like towards mage. I'm not levitating.
I'm levitating.
Call me David Blaine. I'm gravitating towards mage just because I think I'll be able to do fun stuff with it. And no, it's like it's new to everyone. Like Ret Paladin. I love Ret Paladin, and I will. It'll be my second character, no doubt. But like Mage is going to be fun as fuck with like me, you, and Go, like all three of us, like 3-man in 5-man dungeons as Boomy, Feral, Arcane Mage. Like it's going to be sick.
I mean, Go, if you're talking about trying out that Panzerkin thing. That sounds like a pretty good opportunity to do that because then at least we're only griefing each other.
Yeah, I know, right? We'll have Brother Go, Brother Scott, and Brother Table.
It's going to be funny doing, we'll be doing it 3-man in dungeons with Go keeping Mangle up for you. It'll be weird, but it'll be fun. Yeah, as a Boomy.
Mangle weaving.
I don't know. All right, and then Star Surge. I mean, we've pretty much covered it anyway, haven't we? Like, use it as a boomy.
Yeah, the cool thing about it is 3% of base mana. Hopefully it stays that way. And a 35-yard range, so once we have 2 points Nature's Reach, it should be 42 yards. And as
Which
long
is great.
as as long as it does a good amount of damage, then it'll have a place.
I wonder if they left a 0 off of that. I mean, 3% base mana. They might as well have said it's free.
It makes sense for it to be such a low base mana cost because of the fact that it has a cooldown. Like, if it's going to be that cheap, it needs to have a cooldown. But if it has no cooldown, it should be more expensive. So I think it makes sense the way it is. But, I mean, who knows if they'll adjust it. They've already adjusted a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, very possibly. That
seems to see it change,
up to like 12% or something. I don't know. 3% seems very on the low side. How much was Sunfire out of interest?
21%.
All right,
but it's got no cooldown. So
okay, so let's think about one what has got a cooldown. How about Haunt? And I know that's probably not a good one to look at on the basis that they can life tap, but that's 12%. Haunt's 12%. So what about one that hasn't got life tap? Yeah, I know. Oh, so what about Arcane Blast on the initial cast of Arcane Blast? That hasn't got a cooldown. Something. Come on, something. Give me something.
The Mage Flame Blast. What's it called?
It's
Scorch. No,
Living
Scorch,
Flame.
Fire Blast.
Living Flame.
Fire Blast.
Fire Blast. Oh no, a Living Flame has got a 1 minute cooldown. 1 minute, and it's 11% base mana. Yeah, so
but we're not trying to nerf balance mana here, Scotty. We're not. Come on.
We're not. I'm just highlighting some discrepancies between some of the shit that we're looking at. All right.
And this is a great one in favor of the balance druid. So thank you for having our 3% base mana cost.
Yeah, that's going to change. Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. That's going to change.
No one's arguing about 3%.
I'm trying to think of other stuff too, like other ways to maybe shake things up. And like, I'm sure this is something that you've like at least considered. Instead of Star Surge, like if Moonkin mana is still god awful for whatever stupid reason, if they don't adjust anything, what do you think about instead of taking Star Surge, get Omen of Clarity, be in melee range, fish for Omen procs between casts, and use the Life Bloom glyph? Or goes
laughing before you even finish speaking.
And then when you get an Omen proc, you spend the Omen proc on Life Bloom so that when it blooms, you get the mana cost back.
You're talking about pre-pull, right? So I get all of that done, and then
no, he means throughout the fight
in combat, 6 seconds in, and then I've got my mana back.
No, I'm talking about melee weaving.
Melee weaving. So you'll be melee weaving and using Life Bloom to get mana back over the course of the fight. I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah, 5 points.
It's shit, but it's not crazy.
I'd have to get. What is the talent called? 5 points of natural weapons, increasing my melee damage. So
have you thought about
melee weaving?
Have you thought about just growing a pair of bollocks and taking Fury of the Stormrage, and then when you're just press Wrath?
I like that one.
Yeah, that's a lot easier, isn't it?
That kind of seems like, when you really think about what a rotation might look like at any level, really, like I remember in TBC, Wrath was more damage per mana than Starfire was, but Starfire was more efficient. So the reason you were always spamming Starfire was just because it was more mana efficient to do that. But if mana was no object, you would spam Wrath instead during TBC.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was like in vanilla though. If Starfire is better
that,
damage per cast, like what would you just spam Starfire until you start to get low on mana, then you switch to Wrath to regen, and then you go back to Starfire?
Might still even just downrank it. I don't know, because it's still trucked. Even downrank to rank 1 Starfire, still pumped.
Don't be a pussy. You're not downranking.
But like,
I hope not.
If it's like it was in TBC and it's more damage to just spam Wrath than it is to spam Starfire, like there would be no reason to even use Starfire at all if Wrath is still the higher damage option, because if you use Fear of the Stormrage, it's free anyway. And then all your mana can go towards Moonfire, Sunfire, and Star Surge. And then, while everything is, ticking, then you're just spamming Wrath.
Hang on, what debuff makes Starfire better? What am I missing?
The Curse of Elements from warlocks.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
arcane damage. It's not nature damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as that curse is up, which usually it's up, then yeah. So like PvP wise, it's not usually up. So I mean, there's that little tiny difference.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't feel...
Or dungeons.
I said it right, like the first day we got to see, well, at BlizzCon, when we got to see all the Druid runes, we make up these sort of lovely little scenarios in our head, you know, on what you could use in this situation, but they're pretty fucking cut and dry, aren't they? Let's be fair. You know, what you're going to use as a feral tank, what you're going to use as a feral cat, what you're going to use as a boomy, what you're going to use as resto. There's not... Obviously, when you put PvP in the mix, then of course there is a few more options, but in PvE, like, you've basically got one rune per spec.
Kind of, yeah, but I mean, with the caveat of the, you know, Mangle versus lacerate and survival of the fittest versus wild strikes situation.
Yeah,
like, that's really the only slightly complicated thing, but that's more of a group comp thing than it is like a individual player power thing.
Yeah, if you're a feral druid and there is no wild strikes, it needs to be brought. Like, just yeah, I think that's like just full stop.
And that's kind of like I said earlier, but I'll say it again, and it makes me sad to say it as a feral main, but if you're the only feral in the group, it's better to just have a different tank in a 10-man. In a 10-man, it's better to just have a different tank, and you just DPS instead and bring wild strikes, and then the other tank benefits from wild strikes, and you don't need all the extras. That tank isn't going to need all that extra support that a feral tank needs. That's the thing that's unfortunate. I don't know if Blizzard has any plans to. I don't know if they even realize that it's like this, that they made it like this by putting Mangle and lacerate on the same slot, and by putting survival of the fittest and wild strikes in the same slot. I don't know if they even thought about that, but like a feral tank needs more support than any of the other tank specs at all.
Let me clarify the curse. It was Curse of Shadow, not Curse of Elements. So Curse of Shadow reduces Shadow and Arcane resist by 75 and increases both of those schools' damage by 10%. Only one curse per warlock can be active on any one target. So,
thanks, Go.
Yeah, we need multiple warlocks putting up multiple curses still.
I'm gonna get one more beer, and then by the time that's finished, I think we'll round this episode out. So if we can talk about any shit that you want for about, I don't know, it's a full can, carried a 3 divided by 2, like 12 seconds.
I don't know, I just like, it'd be interesting if they decided to add something like Curse of Shadow, but that will affect nature spells, because like there isn't anything like that in vanilla. The only thing you really do to increase nature damage is just stack plus nature damage gear.
Yeah. So it would be a situation maybe where Curse of Shadow's up and we're starfiring, but then we switch to an ad that doesn't have the curse up, so we throw Wrath instead because we know it's going to hit a little bit harder. And then once we switch back to the boss, it's back to Starfire.
Yeah. No, there's so many cool things they could do. And that's the thing, is like they're keeping their ear to the ground, they're monitoring things, they're being as flexible as they can be so they can make adjustments, swiftly. So like, I don't know, like there's anything that anybody thinks of that's a good idea, hopefully they would at least consider it and consider like the implications of it and the potential ramifications of implementing something like that. And, having it be given the time of day would be nice at the very least. You know what I mean?
They are listening 100%.
If they increased nature damage, it's going to buff shamans a little bit, wouldn't it?
Which I think is fine, because like Ellie shamans were traditionally, like as far as I can remember, I didn't see a ton of Ellie shamans in vanilla classic rates. So like, I don't think I saw one. Yeah, so like that's one of the. I mean, of all of the videos that I've seen about SOD, I don't see people talking about elemental shamans at all. Like, so anything like that's going to buff nature damage, I think, it'll affect Storm Strike from enhancement shamans, it'll affect Earth Shock damage, but it'll affect Lightning Bolt, it'll affect Wrath. I think that's fine.
I know. Like, the other big thing, when you look at what they've done, like if you was to look at Shaman, with like enhancement with Lava Lash, Elemental with Lava Burst, and then obviously we've got Mage and shit anyway, but like, is Molten Core actually going to have fully fire resist bosses?
Right.
Because that can't happen with some of the stuff that they've added, surely. And I couldn't find this. So when me and Go was doing the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Go, you've got a much better memory than me. But someone said Shazra is fully arcane immune. Now, I can't find that actually being factually accurate, because I did look after the podcast. When you guys ask questions and you're like, oh, what about this, what about that? I do go and fact check. I might not look it up now while we're live, but I do go away and look at things that some of you guys say. And I don't know. It absolutely could be, but I could find nothing that stated that Shazra is arcane immune. But if it is, that would literally mean you cannot have a mage healer. So arcane
immune. I don't remember because I played.
I could have sworn he just had boosted immunity or not.
Yeah, it might have like extra resistance. Exactly. That's all I could see. All I could see that it was, and it was worded very weird as well, if I remember rightly. Like it's, I don't know, adept to arcane damage. It was like it weren't even like its resistances are boosted. It was just the way I read it. It was like, yeah, it might take a little bit less damage from arcane. But someone definitely, do you remember, Go? Someone literally said, "Oh, ask the devs this question," and they super chatted, saying like here, like arcane damage, like will on Shazra that will remove arcane mages from being able to heal. And because it was a super chat, I'd done my due diligence and actually looked into it, and I couldn't find that it was immune to arcane anywhere.
So I'm looking at a log right now, and I'm trying to find. Was this not Shaz? No, I'm trying to find Shaz.
She's in
like
Molten Core.
Yeah, for a boomy. So Shazra.
Oh, you should know, man. Yeah, you should just know.
Oh, they weren't there. It's been so long. That's been 3
also,
years.
Like, people are still logging arrow raids. You could probably find an arrow raid with a boomy in it on Shaz and Molten Core.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah. We'll keep looking for that and let's find out. Because, like, if it is right, then that would be pretty harsh. You know,
debilitating.
You've now got a mage that literally can't heal on that boss. I know in original MC Moonfire was immune, but I know in Classic it was not. I used to just cast Wrath because it was better. Okay.
So this Moonkin has a rank 1 Balanced Druid parse, and they're shredding, melee, claw, and ferocious biting.
That sounds legit. Deaden Magic, Arcane. A self-buff Shazra applies. This reduces all magic damage taken by 50%. But no, because that's all magic damage. Like, yeah, that's fine. We know there's going to be things like that. But we're talking fully resistant bosses. You know, like, if you've got a boss that's fully resistant to fire, when, like, the 2 biggest abilities that you've given to shamans for both of their specs, or 2 of their DPS specs, is Lava Lash and Lava Burst. That would fucking suck cock as soon as you hit 60. Welcome to the raid. You can't come.
I think it'd be interesting if they did stuff like things to circumvent mechanics like that. Like, for example, like shamans are supposed to be like, masters of all the elements, right? Well, if something is fire immune, why shouldn't there be some sort of ability that like maybe elemental shamans specifically get that allows them to like shift the damage type to a different type? You know what I mean? Like if you're fighting a fire immune boss, do like elemental shift or something like that. I don't know what you would actually call it, but like elemental shift, let's just call it for now. And it changes all fire damage to frost damage, so that you can still, because like mages kind of had to do that in Molten Core, right? Like they went frost spec because everything was, heavily resistant to fire damage. So they couldn't be fire. And same thing in BWL, like they had to be frost because fire spells were less effective. So,
which sucks, though, doesn't it? No, like you want like, I know, like, yeah, maintaining the vanilla fucking feel and all of that bullshit, but that's not a vanilla feel. That's just shit design. Like that's terrible. That you've got all of these classes and specs, but then you've got certain specs that cannot raid. Not because of their damage, but because you've got bosses that take no damage
because of the way it's designed.
Yeah, like that to me, just that needs changing because that makes no sense.
So the rank 3 Boomkin parse on Shaz has it's such a short fight in this, it's ridiculous, but there's loads of resisted hit, loads of resisted critical hit, like damage. And it's like 55% is either resisted hit or resisted critical hit.
But did he actually do any damage?
450 DPS.
Yeah, no, I mean with Arcane, so with Starfire. Was he hitting?
No, they did. That's Starfire damage, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it might have heavy Arcane resistance, but you can still hit with Arcane. But even that alone, that's not great, is it? As a healer,
yeah, it's like 50% damage reduction, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, as a healer, as an Arcane mage, regen mage. That's not great. And I know it's like, oh well, for that fight the Arcane mage would go DPS, but well, how? Because even though we've had dual spec teased, what are you saying? So for all bosses other than Shadra, you're going to have the Arcane mages healing, and then when you get to Shadra, they need to go and like teleport back, go and change their spec to Frost, come back, then go out again, go and change back to Arcane. Do you know what I mean? Like that just ruins the flow of things.
It could be a great spot for a rune.
It could be, yeah, even like a rune from a different class to provide like different interaction between classes. I mean, Warlock is an obvious example because they already apply a curse that reduces the resistances. What if Warlocks had some sort of like aura mastery-esque sort of thing that increased the effect of their curse that weakens resistance on the boss or whatever? So like the baseline resist is minus 75% or minus 75 resist, but then they hit their like ability, their aura mastery like ability that triples it or something like that. So like on a fight like Shazra, where say he's got like 150 arcane resist or whatever, the Warlock throws up Curse of Shadow, reduces the resist by 75, still 75 left, uses the ability, it doubles or triples or whatever, and then it removes all of the resistance for, like 20 seconds or whatever, like whatever the duration would be. And that would be an incentive to bring DPS Warlocks instead of tank Warlocks so they could cycle that on those fights.
Yeah. So it adds a layer of gameplay and synergy again between classes. Yeah, I like it.
I still like Spell Pen a little bit, and there's never been that big of a PvE use for Spell Pen. And it wasn't in Classic, correct me if I'm wrong. It was in TBC, though. There were some Spell Pen options, like enchants and stuff, even on some pieces of gear.
I'm sure, ain't the Warsong Gulch trinket got Spell Pen on in vanilla? Or it reduces the resistance of the target, which is basically Spell Pen.
Maybe. You could be right, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Don't say you think I'm right until we check, because I'm probably wrong.
But I think that'd be cool. Like, even if it was a rune that gave you some Spell Pen, it was like you have the option to get Spell Pen, or you can have options to do whatever else is in that rune slot. So yeah, some fights you'd have to put that rune on if you were tanking, especially, or if you wanted to make sure your spells were going to hit.
Yeah, so it's kind of Spell Pen, yeah. So it is the Warsong Gulch trinket, Rune of Perfection, the Silver Wing Sentinels, yeah, friendly. It decreases the magical resistance of your spell targets by 10. It's basically Spell Pen.
Oh yeah.
And that will be like phase 1 bis for many classes actually, because it's got 4 stamina on as well. So
it'd be kind of cool if there was like even something like rotational that they could do to counteract resistances and stuff like that. Like for example, like we'll use mages again for the example, like with the whole mages going frost in Molten Core because fire is less, whatever. What if there was something like, you cast a Frostbolt, and while the Frostbolt debuff, while whatever the thing is that, that stacks up, like while that's active on the target, it reduces the, like you can cast your stuff that would normally not be able to cast or something like that. Or like, while Scorch is up or whatever, like your frost spells are more effective, like something like that to like have more interplay. So you're not only just casting Fireball over and over and over, or Frostbolt over and over and over, or like, for Balanced Druids as an example, like while the target is on the effect of Sunfire, your Starfire can, bypass resistances or something like that for, like, while the dot is active, like et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Something like that, so you can handle it yourself instead of having to rely on a warlock doing their aura mastery thing or their demonic aura, whatever you want to call it. Like, but like either way, like something like that would be cool. Like a way for either you to yourself be able to handle it, or for another to rely on another class for that sort of like interplay to happen, to rely on each other as a group to have a strong group comp and handle it that way. Like either way, I think is a pretty cool solution to that.
Yeah.
Another thing I hate, like right now in Wrath, is getting partial resist. So if I knew that my spell was going to have a full, like, damage, and I can calculate it kind of, and I know ahead of time, like, okay, I should be hitting for this much. Then I love that a lot more than, okay, I got a lunar proc, and my crit was a 50% resist. Like, that feels so bad.
Yeah, so you treat it as a cap, wouldn't you? You treat it as a cap. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm hit capped, now I'm going to get spell pen capped. You know, like, yeah, I agree, 100%. And we see it in Wrath. You know, like these bosses as well, in particular, that are not friendly to classes, but not to the point where you wouldn't take them. You know, so I tell you what, a prime example is Sindragosa. Now, what tank what springs to mind? Sindragosa main tank. What are you going to use?
Death Knight. And
what is she heavily resistant to?
Frost damage.
Exactly, and that's literally the primary. You know, DK's primary like threat builder on a single target is Icy Touch. Yet it's not so punishing that you'd be like, we can't use a DK tank. No, we can't use a DK tank. They're not going to be able to hold aggro, but they will generate less single target threat on Sindragosa than they would on, I don't know, let's say Sarfang. You know, so it's fine. It's a little bit punishing, but not to the point where it's like, shit, we can't use an Arcane Mage Healer on Shazra. Shit, we can't take a Ellie Shaman or an Enhancement Shaman on Baron Geddon. You know, it needs to be like just a little bit punishing, but not to the point where it dictates your raid comp for you.
Yeah, because last night we had threat issues on Sindragosa. DPS ripped off it was Table. Table ripped threat off of Sindragosa because
he's so shit.
No, normally what happens is our rogue has been tricksing a DPS, but for Sindragosa specifically, we just swap the tricks to the tank because of the frost resist thing. So our tank, we didn't have to change it from DK. We just shifted our tricks over to the tank, and it was fine.
Yeah. So it's like you might have to do. Make little tweaks or whatever, but it's not like all of a sudden we can't have a DK tank it, you know. And we've seen that even in, I think Hodir, even in Ulduar, was quite heavily frost resistance. Yeah, you know, but it didn't mean that you couldn't have a fucking DK tank it. I know it's hard to say anything other than DK at the moment when we're talking about frost, because you're not gonna have a frost mage, are you? Unless your name's Ernest and you're a fucking meme artist who plays not only Frost Mage, but also fucking Blood DK. That was like a real personal attack towards Ernest, but and I'm not even saying sorry or taking it back. But what Axel just said is a good shout. You know, being able to, you know, change runes anywhere, you know, so on a fight, as long as you're out of combat, you can change runes, but not actually being able to change talents. You know, like, I mean, that just really means like dual spec just needs to be in from phase 1.
No, here's their solution to that. They're going to add an engineering thing where it's like a Jeeves. You can drop your little Jeeves, and it's going to allow you to respec in raid. Right there. It's your respec trainer right there. Boom.
Or what they could do is add a flying mount that has got like a passenger on it. Yeah, that is a talent respec guy that works for every class. And it's specifically a flying mount. So no one can ever get it. So it's like, well, we've added it. I mean, don't blame us that you can't fucking train it.
Put it somewhere where you can only get there by hacking. Like, put it on top of something where you can't normally reach it, and then anybody who does access it just gets banned immediately.
It's on GM Island.
Yeah.
No, I thought that was a really good point, though. because your rune choices will also dictate some of your talent choices. You know, but I think all that yells out to me is that instead of Agron standing on fucking that big stage, living his best life and saying, maybe one day you won't be limited to one talent spec. Instead of saying that bullshit,
day is November 30th.
Yeah, exactly. Turn around and say, on November the 31st, we're going to add dual talents. Because, like, we need dual spec in this. There's so much fun. Everyone's going to want to play with all of this shit. That's the thing. You know, even as an arcane, I want to be a main healer on a mage, but I also want to play about with living bomb and shit. You know, I want to play about with fire. Like, give me dual spec.
Maybe in a week we'll have some answers to that question. There's some interviews that could happen where the devs might get asked, "Hey, what are your response to everybody asking for dual spec at level 25? Is it planned at 25 or is it planned later on down the line? Like, how are we going to be able to change our talents? Is it just going to be at our talent trainers in our major cities?" That'd be a sweet question.
That is really good. I'll just need a minute. What?
I mean, you know, what'd be interesting is if they added some sort of, like, if they added a new quest or something to, you know, so it's not like you just get it. You have to, like, unlock it by doing a quest or something like that.
Yeah, because what is it now? Like 1,000 gold it cost in TBC to get dual spec. So it's got to change. And
I think that was put in as like a gold sync, like, you know.
Yeah, I don't think their intention for Classic is a gold sync for dual spec.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think they're trying to remove friction, I think.
So putting it as a quest would be pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, forget quests. So
it's interesting.
Having seen, which I know both of you probably have looked at, but having seen some of the ways that you unlock these runes, which some of them are like really fucking random. And I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to make one up just to give you all that are watching. Because, as I say, I am not spoiling these fucking runes for anyone, no matter what. Like, fuck views. I don't give a shit. Like, if you want to go and watch someone else and go and find them out, go and find it out yourself. But 7 days grace. That's what I'm saying. 7 days of no rune spoilers from me from launch. After that, it's fucking fair game because it'll all be out there anyway. But let's say, as a boomy, you have to unlock a rune, you have to keep a target entangled roots for 60 seconds. So a single target you have to keep rooted for 60 seconds without taking damage. That's the sort of thing we're talking about here, yeah? So really weird and wacky.
By accident by soloing elite quests.
Yeah. But, you know, and then how cool would that be when that pops up and you're like, shit! Like, you know, so that's why I don't want to spoil it, because some of them are really random, you know, how you need to do things that you wouldn't ordinarily even do. You know, like, I don't know, let's say as a rogue, you need to kill a mob without ever going below 60 energy or something like that. You know, we're talking strange ways of doing things, but that will unlock a rune. So I know for a fact...
Or like in Bear, like stay rage capped for a minute or some shit like that.
Yeah,
maybe.
Or like a rogue, you need to use your thrown weapon 5 times before.
Oh yeah, kill a target with thrown weapons only. Get X amount of killing blows with a thrown. That'd be sick, dude.
Yeah, so you know what I mean. It's weird shit like that. So now imagine if they put dual spec as a weird thing for every class. So 9 classes, not spec specific, just 9 classes, and you randomly done something and dual spec was enabled.
That'd be cool if it was like for mages, like to get dual spec, like you have to use spells from all 3 schools to kill an enemy. Like open with an arcane missiles and then, or like maybe it's like a specific order, like arcane missiles and then fireball and then frostbolt, like, you know, go alphabetical order on X amount of targets or whatever. Or like for a druid, like kill an enemy after having healed yourself, hit it with a balanced spell, and then hit it with something in cat form, and then go in bear form and hit it with something, like, and then you get dual spec. That'd be sick.
So can you imagine as a mage, right? As a mage, how cool it would be? Because I could be wrong here, and it could absolutely be like really mind-blowingly easy, and you're like, fucking hell, Scott, come on, like keep up. Can you imagine if it was 40 unique players need to take your portal to a capital city? And that was what unlocked dual spec. So imagine, because if we're in a raid, yeah, I'm telling you now, a mage puts a portal up, I still halfstone. Like, and I see loads of people halfstone when a raid ends. Like,
I do.
Can you imagine the first mage in like Molten Core or whatever puts a portal up, and him included, and all 39 other people all actually use the portal, and then the mage gets dual spec? Because like that would be such an like easily discoverable like dual spec unlock, but at the same time, I bet it would take fucking weeks for anyone to discover.
So the reason I don't click on mage portals now is because I've got PTSD of like the Karazhan
Yeah, it's a
port.
stone art.
Yeah, or stone art. Yeah. So at level 25, they should only have like the major city. So I'd be more keen to use that.
I don't think they'll have any. I don't think they can only teleport themselves before.
Oh, it might be 40. Yeah.
40
I'm talking like just. Yeah, I'm not saying we need it. I am saying we need dual spec at 25. But what I mean is, if it weren't, and it was later on in the game, and that was just like, that was the mage one. Like, that's what I mean. They could put something in that's so easy. Like, it's not even complicated or requires skill or anything. You know, it's so easy to unlock, but like, you just wouldn't think of doing it. As a druid, you could unlock dual spec. Yeah, mine for Druid would be you can unlock by dual spec by teleporting to Moonglade whilst you're already in Moonglade.
I would get that at level 10 then, because every time I go to do bear quests, I'd go talk to the bear, and then instead of running back, I just teleport Moonglade again, because it drops you right in front of the building where the quest guy is.
But it's not going to be unlocked until, let's say you're not going to unlock that till level 40 or 50 or 60. You know, would you do that again then? Because you've already done it, like, while you're doing the bear quest, so you'd be like, I mean,
I'm gonna now, just in case.
But, you know, like,
that'd
that's
cool
proper troll, isn't it? You know, like, where...
It was, like, a class-specific thing, that'd be cool if it was, like, you know, like for Alliance mages, like, the mage district in Stormwind would have some sort of thing that you would have to do in the mage district, like, somewhere to do something like that. For druids, it'd be, like, you have to swim to the bottom of Lake Elunara in Moonglade, and there's, like, a thing there or something like that. Warriors, it's, like, fucking, I don't know, you jump off a mountain and avoid fall damage by charging, like, some shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I just love to see it so easy. You know, like, so easy to get, but it just takes ages for some classes to work it out.
Mine would be a little complicated, I guess. Mine would be like, you have to have Insect Swarm, Moonfire, and a bleed on the target all at once before it dies. So you'd have to go into Resto. I guess...
You would have to respec first. You would have to pick, because, like, let's be real, nobody's going to have Insect Swarm at level 25. Who's going to have it? Maybe a Resto Druid would have Insect Swarm at 25. Maybe
Resto, yeah.
And they're definitely not putting a blade up.
You would have to respec in order to get that. Like, that's like an interesting idea, to like have had to paid to respec at least once, and then you do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could come up with some really interesting ones, and I'm sure Blizzard have sat and had meetings where they've tried to come up with some... Well, I hope they have. I hope they've sat and thought about some funky shit that is like... So again, it needs to be easy. That's the thing. It needs to be so easy that you won't even try it.
Yeah, like accidentally get it.
Yeah, exactly. But then that one person gets in, it's like, oh my fucking god! And then there'll be a YouTube video and everyone's got it. But yeah, you know, it would be fun. Are we rounding this shit off anyway? Because I need to go and eat. Sure. I'm fucking starving.
Yeah, I got a pizza with vindaloo sauce in the oven right now.
I have got a pizza ready to go in the microwave because I actually had a kebab before we started. At the kebab place that we got it from, I also ordered a pizza, and I ate the kebab before the raid. Obviously, I raided before this podcast. So I ate a kebab, I raided, now we've done the podcast, now I'm going to warm the pizza up when I go in. Easy.
Solid. I'll probably just have a sandwich. Maybe a sausage roll.
Oh, I love a sausage roll. Dip it in HP brown sauce. I don't know why I've done that. Oh, do a little dip.
Oh, I love sausage.
Oh, reverse grip. Okay.
The reverse grip. Table, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/@tableslam, all one word, or on Twitch at twitch.tv/table_slam.
Go.
And
Thanks for coming. You can find me... Table. Not table. We've done table. Go.
You can find me here Saturday, November 25th, discussing Warrior and Priest Season of Discovery information with a guest, assuming he's going to show up, unlike our guest tonight. Willie is joining us Saturday. So, yeah, that's where you can find me. Or youtube.com/@classicgo.
Willie will be here.
All your Boomkin information, you can stand for Classic WoW.
Willie will turn up. Willie is going to be all up in all of our faces, like 100%. Willie's going to be all over this podcast. I mean,
Nice.
we've had balls, haven't we? So we might as well have Willie out now as well. Hey, let's go. No one will understand that unless you was watching Cubicle Chat Season 1, Episode
6, I think.
Six, apparently.
Episode redacted.
Yeah. The Winky episode.
Oh, it was the Winky episode. Shit, that is so good.
Also, euphemism for penis.
Yeah, I'm glad he clarified. I don't reckon you could have worked that out yourself.
Penis. Penis mightier than the sword.
Oh my god, my boy said to me. So when we got back from school, I picked him up 2 days ago. I picked him up 2 days ago. I don't know where they are now. I was like, mate, like just you can play Roblox, but you're doing your homework first. So I sat him at a table, stuck his book in front of him, and was like, he was like, I'll do half of it now, and then I'll play Roblox. And I left in. I was like, no, you're going to sit there and you're going to do it all. You do all your homework, then you can go and play Roblox, and you've not got any worries, have you? You can literally play it until it's time to get in the bath and go to bed. So he sat at the table, and then I started editing. And he went, I can't do it. I don't know where the pen is. And he said pen is, and pen is. I instantly thought, oh, penis. And I said it out loud, and he cracked up. Literally, he went, I don't know where the pen is. I went, penis? I mean, he's 10. He's not an idiot. You know what I mean? He knows what that is. They do sex education at about fucking 6 nowadays anyway. But it was just the way I literally looked him square in the face. You know, like no hesitation. He went, I don't know where the pen is. And I went, penis?
He's like, no, Dad, it's probably not there.
Oh, Ashley, thank you for the super chat. Thank you. But yeah, that actually happened. But luckily, my boy's an absolute legend.
He called you cringe when you wanted to have a sing song in that one intro.
Oh,
yeah, he did. He did call me cringe. Yeah, and my little girl's in the Rogue video tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to putting out. And I like the Metal Gear Solid reference in there. We'll see how many people get that. Me, you can find me. Yeah, just cool. Mine's easy.
And if you're watching on YouTube, they can find you on Kick, where you stream all of your raids on Kick, your NA raids.
Yeah, I stream all my NA raids, and I will be starting to stream a lot more EU raids on Kick as well. Because we're at the point now where I'm a spare part as a raid leader. They don't need me raid leading anymore. They can sort themselves out. I'll occasionally say things, shout them, call them pricks, you know. But yeah, thank you, Go. Thanks for reminding me that I stream on Kick. Very kind of you.
This episode, all I've been thinking about is the VOD viewers, and I want them to be able to know if they're watching it on YouTube, they can find you on Kick.
Absolute legend. This is why Go's here. Like, he's just what a legend. Table.
Logistics guy.
Thank you for coming, Table. It's actually been amazing. You have said so much good shit tonight. Like, honestly, amazing.
Always fun talking to the lads.
Oh, yeah. And next episode is Saturday with Willie, yeah?
Yep. What was
Knew
it?
it.
Warrior Priest?
Warrior Priest with me, you, Willie. And I might, he might not be here now, but I might reach out to Hammer and see if he wants to jump in on an episode. Might be the post launch podcast with Geordie, or maybe one of the other episodes. I don't know what class he's going to main. He said Warlock or Paladin, and they're both two completely separate episodes. But we'll see. I'll reach out and have a chat to Hammer because he's putting out really good sod content. So let's go.
Really good
Let's do
sun
it.
content.
I'm just going to roll the outro, which is about 10 seconds long, because it's just the intro that I'm regurgitating. But thank you, everyone, for watching live. Go. What about the people that are watching the VOD?
Special thanks to you guys. Leave a comment and it'll get pinned on top of Scotty's spam for Rested XP or whatever it is that he does on YouTube videos. Your comment will be there instead.
Your comment will definitely be there instead. And there's absolutely no way someone sat through part 1
no
for
shot.
2 hours and then 3 hours of part 2. No chance. So there's going to be no pinned comments.
Yeah. Leave a thumbs up, thumbs down, heart, frowny face emoji, smiley face emoji, soccer ball. Figure out which soccer ball I'm talking about.
And a big aubergine into an OK sign. That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
To
Right.
the other viewers, that means eggplant.
Oh, eggplant. Yeah, that thing. That big purple member. Anyway, thank you guys. Much love. Cheers, table. Cheers, go. See you all later.
See ya.